Welcome everyone, and this is another episode of Let's Talk Resident Evil. And on this show, we talk about our likes and dislikes for each game in the Resident Evil series. So we have our opinions laid out for each game, our favorite thing, and the thing that we can't stand about each game. So of course, this is going to spark some debate in the comments section. Some people might agree or disagree. But that's the fun in it. It's all in fun. Obviously, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and we would like to hear yours down below, or some standouts in the series. We did this podcast a long time ago. We actually did it in November of 2019. So this podcast was recorded before the RE3 leaks, before the RE8 leaks, before we had the information that we had. So it's kind of funny going through this and, hearing us say and predict that RE8 is going to be first person, and then long and behold, the leaks come out, a few weeks ago that it is in first person. Little things like that are kind of funny to listen to because I did, make sure that it still sounded up to date, so we didn't say anything that sounded too irrelevant to what's going on, but we're talking about the games that were already released, so I didn't have to do so much on that. It was just sitting on the hard drive for months, but we had to focus on all of the Resident Evil 3 news that we got in December, because shortly after this podcast was when all the leaks happened, and of course we did podcasts covering Resident Evil 3 Remake so far. There's not a lot of Resident Evil 3 news going on right now as of this recording, so we're putting this out on the weekend so you guys have something to consume until we come back with more legacy streams, and we keep that going until Resident Evil 3 comes out. We hopefully may get some kind of demo or something in March. We don't know. Maybe another one-shot demo, maybe another trailer, but we'll stay on the lookout. We'll keep everyone updated. This is going to be the second podcast that you're going to be getting in February. We promised 2 to 3 shows a month, and that's what we're going to deliver for you. And this one, we've been trying to get out for a long time. It was just whether or not we were able to put it out at the right time to where it didn't get lost in the shuffle. We wanted to make sure it is a lengthy one. It is a longer podcast because we did have to discuss everything. And we did get on some tangents here and there about other Resident Evil games within our discussion, but we kept it streamlined with our list because we had a list pre-existingly before going into this. And I made a list and John made a list, and we didn't even see what each other wrote. We just wrote what we thought. I came over to the studio after work, and that's what I had. I brought my list, and John made his. So this is a really fun one, and let us know your thoughts down below. Don't forget to check out this show on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Libsyn, even Google Play. It's all on there for free download. So if you don't want to watch the video version of this podcast, which just shows footage and has artwork and stuff like that, you could download it and just listen to it on the go. We have a lot of downloaders, a lot of listeners out there. So I'm going to start doing some of the video discussion stuff that we do on YouTube. I'm going to start putting that out as well on the air so people can actually listen to a news break. So even if it's like 15 minutes, it's not a full episode, but some people might just want to hear us discuss a news break if it makes a long discussion video. Because sometimes we do discussion videos and then we do podcasts separately as their own entity, which is, we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep it on that scale. But if there's any like breaking news and stuff, we could put it out in a way where everyone can listen to it and then people can watch it on YouTube. So there's both ways, and traffic's going both ways, and it works out for everyone. So enjoy this episode of the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast. Let's do it.
This is RPD Officer Leon Kennedy, and you're listening to the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast. And today, I'm here with John.
Yo, what's up?
And we are back to bring you a topic discussion. This is actually a fan-requested topic, which we're starting to do. Obviously, there's, no real news and stuff happening right now in the world of updated Resident Evil stuff, but we want to, kind of turn it back to you guys, and we want to take some of your topics. So obviously, if you're listening to this, write in, Twitter, on the Discord, whatever, any topics you want us to talk about.
In the comments of this video.
In the comments of this video,
Yep.
whatever the case may be. So tonight we're talking about our favorite thing about each main entry in the Resident Evil titles, the main titles. And we're also going to circle back around and talk about our least favorite, but we're really going to focus on, we have, Resident Evil 1 through 7, including Code Veronica, and then we also included the Revelation games as well, because they're more toward, they're also kind of links and bridge between games. So we have a list of these games here. We don't include like the spin-offs and stuff like that. Not all of them. We just did, besides, Revelations really is the only spin-off we have here on the list. But me and John essentially made our own individual lists on our own. Like I didn't really see what John wrote, and John, we kind of like talked after the fact on the phone, like prepping, and we had some of the similar opinions, some difference.
Yeah.
So you guys will hear some of that stuff. But we're gonna figure it's a kind of a fun topic because we've talked about all these games throughout a lot of the stuff that we've done throughout the years. So this is kind of just going to be like the best things that we like about it. What makes what makes it good? Like our favorite thing from that game in particular.
Yes, and this topic was actually requested by Space Burrito on the YouTube community tab.
Yes.
When I originally asked the question of, what you guys wanted to hear us talk about.
Right.
Just to give some insight about podcasts.
And pay attention to the community tab on there.
For sure,
we do
definitely.
post a lot of stuff, and you guys can interact with us instantly. And like what Space Burrito did, he commented the topic, and look, we're talking about it.
Yeah, because you guys have to understand, too, like, there's so many of you, and only 2 of us, or 3 of us, because of Dustin. Some things that we think are kind of like silly to talk about, or some things we think might be like a waste of time to talk about, might be something you guys are really interested in hearing us talk about. So that's what the community tab is going to be for, and Twitter and Instagram and
all the
Discord.
Platforms, right?
All the platforms. We're always looking for topics. We're here for you guys. Like, this is a community.
Absolutely.
It's not just an us show. It's an all of us show. And we are very opinionated. I don't think anybody listening to this right now, whether that's on the cloud or on YouTube, Spotify,
right,
Libsyn, whatever we have, right? I don't think anybody doesn't think we're opinionated. We have very strong opinions because we love this game. We love the franchise. We're going to be covering, like he said, all the mainline titles, and Revelations is thrown in there because I felt like it was imperative to the series because it's kind of like the bridge between certain games. And they're a little unique and they're different. So
right.
Anthony's going to start. We're going to kind of just go, let's start with positive.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna go down the line, and then I guess you want to go down the line with the
positive and negative. Let's keep each series together. So we'll talk about Resident Evil 1, 1996, PS1.
Starting from the beginning.
What is your favorite thing? And then I'll talk about mine. And then I'll tell you my least favorite thing.
Okay.
Or you tell me your least favorite thing. And then I'll tell them
Okay.
mine.
So for Resident Evil 1996, the original, not remake, original.
And be as in depth as you want to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the main thing for me that I always thought about and what I always liked, and one thing that always used to creep me out when I was a kid when playing the very first game, was really the isolation. The isolation of being confined in one set spot. Now, obviously, there's the guardhouse, there's the laboratory, but I always liked that claustrophobic, and especially when you don't know what's going on, being, the characters being in a situation where, they don't know what's going on, and you're kind of on this ride with them. That always kind of fucked with me. And I, especially because of how influenced they were by Night of the Living Dead, 1990, that I love that. I love that, like the horror just in one spot, and there's like no way out because there's dogs outside, there's threats outside. You're in the middle of the fucking woods and you don't know what the hell's out there, so you can't just run outside and escape. And obviously that's shown when if you try to go out the front door, which is always, great because they knew someone would try to just walk out the front door and see what happens. And there's zombie dogs out there. And I like the fact that it has that between like the music and everything,
I can go on about all the great things that I like, but that's my main thing is the isolation I feel, the sense of dread with just like the color palettes and the tone of the whole mansion, even with the original art style. That has a certain vibe that adds to that isolation factor, but I like that. I liked it that it's in a house. Obviously, there's been games like Sweet Home that were in a house, but this especially was just like, I guess, on the PS1, because it's especially with the first 3 games that we're going to be talking about with the trilogy, we're on the PS1. So I think a lot of the stuff that we like about it, we wouldn't really have that. That ability, the technology wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for Sony's PlayStation. So I think the sense of isolation in the mansion, the design of the mansion, sticks with me. But I like that because it's scaled back. So that's really the main thing. It's because it's not you're not getting to the city, you're not getting to the overwhelming. I mean, it could be overwhelming. I mean, but that's what I like about it, is that it's overwhelming, but in a smaller scale. It's confined in this space.
Yeah, I think just to hit on the note, obviously we're going to interject each other
Sure,
a lot,
yeah.
but just to hit on Anthony's point of his favorite thing, the reason why I'm cutting in is because it's pretty much the same as mine.
Okay.
So my Resident Evil 1 1996 favorite thing is the tone atmosphere. The tone and atmosphere in that game is incredible. And just like we said, like it can be overwhelming, but it's almost underwhelming to the point where Resident Evil 1 1996 is built off of tension. It's very it's very tense. And what's the word I'm looking for? Not thriller. There's another word.
Suspenseful?
Suspenseful. That's what I'm looking
Right.
for. Suspense. So I was getting confused because of Spencer Mansion. I was like, that's not right. Yeah. So the Resident Evil 1 is very... It's like more suspense-based than anything. When you turn a corner, those zombies don't make any sounds in Resident Evil 1. They're not moaning and groaning unless, like, they're coming after... Like,
or you
you're
don't have
shooting them.
or you don't have like the background soundtrack of like
Yeah.
the moans and the
Yeah,
and the,
you don't
and
have
the
anything.
fire
It's just
or
like
yeah.
you turn the corner and it's there. And like it's very thriller-esque for Resident Evil 1. And Resident Evil 1 really doesn't have the most deep gameplay. It
No.
doesn't have like the deep story mechanic.
It's more simplistic.
It's very simplistic, and when it comes to what that game does that no of the other Resident Evil games do, is no other Resident Evil game is the first. And the first game set the tone and it set the atmosphere for the rest of the series.
Right.
And I don't see how that couldn't be my favorite thing. Like you said, being in a house.
Right.
Being in unfamiliar territory. Like you said, the city is very overwhelming. The city's like it's big, it's expansive.
Right.
The trilogy is set in this great little universe. But there's something about being in a house by yourself, not knowing where you are. There's there's woods around you, but you can't go out there because there's dogs everywhere.
And even starting from the dogs jumping through the window,
Yeah.
where it's like you didn't know, like that reason why that scared everyone is because nobody expected it,
And no
it's like,
games really did that.
no.
No games did jump scares before.
And you
it was the
can't run
first
out of the
time.
house. So what do you do when the
Yeah.
dogs jump through the window? You run further into the house
Further into the
because
house.
you have to explore and look for your comrades.
Resident Evil 1 is set up very cinematically and very, very, very much like suspense horror. Like a movie.
From American horror.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
American horror.
Yeah.
For sure. Like the original, like where the only way to run is in.
Yeah,
It's like the
yeah.
only way to run. And then
Yep.
when you're in there, it's not like the city where you can, like if you're a resident of Raccoon City, obviously Resident Evil 3 shows the cutscene where everything goes to hell. But you have options. You have a fire escape. You have an alley. You have a gun shop. You have all these places.
A rooftop.
Things that you've been to in your life you can reach for. Chris and Jill don't have that. They're in this weird place that has these weird fucking puzzles.
And they're technically not trained for the situation.
They're not trained for a situation like
they're
that.
trained for, combat and
They're trained
stuff like
as
that, but not
basically
like
on-
undead shit.
They're trained basically the equivalents of like SWAT and then maybe some terrorism. Like they're trained like that. They're not trained to deal with undead.
They're not trained for a fucking hunter coming
or
around the
buy-
corner
yeah,
while you
buy a
run.
weapon,
Yeah.
or for like you to get comboed in the hallway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
That all
it's
happened to me.
it's just the atmosphere is unforgettable, and there's no other game that I've ever played when it comes to horror, not even watched, that comes close to setting the tone, and you know what the game's about. Like, you know this is what the game is. Silent Hill is a very close second.
Right.
Silent Hill 1 is a very close second.
Yeah.
Like, it's very atmospheric, and they do a great job. Konami did a great job following Resident Evil.
Absolutely.
Like, trying their best. And
Yeah.
I think they're the two kings. I don't think any other games ever come close. Fatal Frame is another notable one for me, like, in terms of, like, pacing and in
Right.
terms of tone. The first one on the Wii was amazing. Didn't age well.
I never played it.
It didn't age well. But when it first came out, it set the standard for that series. And those are just some honorable mentions because we want to show love to other horror games as well. But even like Dino Crisis, just in comparison, right?
Right.
So like Dino Crisis has a good atmosphere. It has a good tone, but it doesn't deliver like Resident Evil 1 does. Resident Evil 1 is just, it's its own animal.
Even Director's Cut with some of the musical changes, some of the music changes in Director's Cut, not the basement theme,
Yeah.
but
Some of them.
the Director's Cut are
Not the clown.
Yeah, not the clown. Yeah, it works.
It does.
It works.
It almost feels like Resident Evil 1 should have had part of the director's cut soundtrack and part of the regular soundtrack as options.
Right.
Like I always say, there's the director's cut Mansion Return theme is amazing.
Love it.
Yeah,
And we talked about that on our soundtrack podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that. It's incredible.
But all that ties into like the vibe of the mansion, like and being in that enclosed space. Like that's the soundtrack for the whole game. Like, you know, and that's what you're hearing mostly versus character dialogue. Yeah.
Like that song is so crazy. We should put if we can, we should put in some of the like 15-second clips over what we're talking about right now. So just but the songs in Resident Evil are crucial to the atmosphere and the tone.
Yeah.
And it's pretty crazy to think that after all these years, the tone still holds up.
Yeah.
The story of the first 3 games especially. Well, I don't want to say story because people might pick that apart, but the tone that the first 3 games set for the series, they still hold up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they do. And I think that's why we appreciate that so much more. And we'll kind of elaborate once we cover the scale of the old and the new.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Because it's a big thing. Because like there's certain things where it's like it's just timeless, you know, and it wasn't focused on the action, it was focused on the horror. And that goes into the setting and where you are and what the characters are up against. You know, there's so many good things about it, and that's why it's just a timeless masterpiece. It's a masterpiece.
And it's got its weaknesses. So let's talk about our least favorite thing.
Okay, least favorite thing that I think I have is lack of story development and character development. I mean, it's still early. It was really early, so I like some of these negative things. People are like, well, you know,
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But it's a thing.
Yeah.
And the reason why we're kind of really rambling on about the Resident Evil, like the first one, is because we both have the same stuff written down.
Right.
So like my least favorite thing in the game is the lack of story and character development. You really don't. It doesn't feel impactful when, you know, Chris and Jill hug in the cell, because like if you're playing as Jill, that's the first time you see Chris.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's the first time you see Chris, and the minimal story where you're just kind of thrusted into it. It would have been cooler if the opening cutscene made more sense. but it doesn't make that much sense. Now, looking back, obviously we have a fond memory of the opening cutscene.
Of course, it's nostalgic.
And it's nostalgic, and like it looks like we recorded it in the hills. Like it looks like we recorded it in South Jersey, because of how whimsical it is. But it wasn't good.
No,
it wasn't. It wasn't very good.
No. It's like a B movie. It's like you watch it and it's like so bad it's good.
Yeah, but it's lovable.
Right. And
I
think it set the tone. Well, you know, try to. Yeah, I mean, because if you compare it to 2 and how like those characters interact, and it's a more like it works more. There's more development there.
Yes,
that's what we're talking about here. Like that's why you can tell that what you feel in 2 towards the characters, You guys know that are listening. You do not feel that with 1. It's a
No.
little disjointed in that connection.
You never see people.
Well,
You
yeah,
never-
with the whole Barry,
You have Barry
being
very rare.
not even existent in Chris's
Yeah.
scenario. It's like, you know, it's
the
a little,
story, the
yeah.
story thing, and I feel like that's an overall thing with the first 3 games. But we'll talk about that towards the end of 3.
Yeah. But that would be my negative thing.
Yeah,
you
my
know,
negative thing is definitely the
so
story.
we do share the same.
We do
on
share.
that.
Resident Evil 1, we're both the same.
Yeah.
Like it's identical, which is
Yeah.
cool. It was really cool to see that too, because like you said earlier, we both wrote these separately,
Right.
so we didn't see each other's answers until
No.
just now.
Yeah.
Moving on to Resident Evil 2,
The big boy.
the big boy,
RE2,
Yeah.
the big sequel, arguably one of the best sequels of all time in gaming, in our opinion. Some people would say the same, but Resident Evil 2, what I have is the sense of dread and intensity, being overwhelmed. That's my favorite thing about 2. Also kind of ties into 3, but obviously you guys probably think what I think of 3,
Yeah.
my favorite. But 2 is just how it blew up the idea from 1, where it's like, all right, now you're not just in this house. This is a viral outbreak at this point. It's spreading in the city. And it's, you know, I think just right off the bat, you're in the fucking flames. There's zombies everywhere. You're running. Like, most enemies on screen. You've never seen this many enemies on screen
Nope.
in a Resident Evil game. Normally, I think maybe in RE1, I want to say maybe there's 2 or 3 zombies
3.
on screen.
3 is the most.
Is the peak. How many zombies are in that first screen? I mean, the first little path that you run, there's like probably what, like 6 zombies,
The
7
first
zombies?
path that you run, there's 1, 2, 3 that get out of the fire.
Right.
There's 2 that you run between in my speed run.
Yeah.
Like when I do that.
Yep.
There's 1 by the police car,
And then 2 by Kendo.
and then there's 2 by Kendo. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
On the
there's 8.
first like little panel
there's 8
there
on
from
the
there,
first.
and it's just like that's what I mean. It's like people that are
I
thrown
think
into
there
that.
might be 2 in the fire, but give or take 8 or
Right.
7.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, and obviously between that and the threats, the BOWs, you know, the liquors.
Yeah.
You have, you know, the Birkin formation and all of the stuff that you're dealing with. It's on just a larger scale, and I think.
Yeah.
That's just what sticks out to me. When I think RE2, I think bigger. I think
And
a
the
piggyback,
piggyback-
sequel territory.
Yeah, and the
You gotta up
piggyback
the
off
ante.
of that.
Yeah.
Especially like when you say like there's still the sense of dread and the overall arcing, like how many different things attack you. You're being attacked from all different directions.
Right.
Like you're being attacked from the walls and the ceilings, like from the liquors, and then the zombies are normal, and then you still have the zombie dogs running around, and then you have G and you have his embryos and stuff like that.
You have stuff that you're familiar with if you played 1.
Yeah, you have the
but you're not
crows.
ready for the capacity in which
Yeah.
they're presented to Leon and Claire.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I mean, you know, like the dog jumping through the window is scary.
Right.
But like, have you guys ever heard the sound effect for when the crows come through the window? It's massively fucking loud.
Right.
Like if you play that game with headphones, it's like holy shit.
Yeah, the sound
That,
design is
like,
incredible.
The crows coming through are almost like, as iconic, and then they don't just get you once. They get you twice.
Yeah.
Because no one was expecting the zombie arms coming in through the windows.
Yeah.
And like
through the
and
hallway.
They're switching up how you're getting attacked. Not that the crows and the zombie arms really do much damage, but they're switching up how they can get you. And I agree with that. I think that the dread is important.
There's enemies everywhere.
Everywhere.
Around every corner.
Yep.
You know, and the threats increased.
Especially in nightmare mode. When
Right.
the spider's little leg can kill you in one hit, like
That's
it did to me.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's at a larger scale. Whether it's you know Leon's scenario or Claire's scenario or A or B, whatever the case may be, it works and it doesn't lose that intensity because obviously you have you know Mr. X on one and not on the other, like little things like that. But it doesn't slow down.
No.
Like for me,
B is almost faster.
right. And so for me, like I would compare this because I like movies and film so much. Like every sequel to most films want to like up the ante, right? You want to make it impactful. That's exactly what this game did.
Yeah.
It really did. And obviously it depends on which genre we're talking about here. But if it's an action film or a horror film, they always try to, you know, make it a lot more either gory or have more action stuff happen or have more stuff going on you have to make it stand out. And I think that's why 2 is like, it stands out from 1. and why most people prefer 2 over 1, because it has all of what we just mentioned, you know.
Well, like we said in the Resident Evil 2 podcast, like the original Resident Evil 2 podcast that we did, was
yeah,
Resident Evil 2 took everything that Resident Evil 1 had and just made it better, which
Yeah.
is very rare for a sequel to do.
right.
Very rare. Like every single thing. There's nothing about the first game.
Sometimes you get the sophomore slump.
Yeah,
some
there's
some
nothing-
games suffer from that, but they didn't.
Nothing about the first game that's better than the second game.
And then if you want to go to 1, you have that isolation. It brings you back to what we just said.
Yeah.
So it's like you have the dynamic, and you have those like.
And I mean mechanically.
Oh, of course.
Mechanically,
Yeah.
there's nothing better in the first game than the second game.
Right, exactly.
You can say the tone and atmosphere of being claustrophobic and more horror is definitely better in the first game than the second game.
Right.
But the second game is just, it's so good.
Yeah, from a mechanical standpoint, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, it just maneuvers a lot better and stuff. But yeah, that's my positive thing.
Yeah.
You have the same thing for positive for
Well,
2?
similar. So
Okay.
mine is not about the overall feeling of dread, but my favorite thing about Resident Evil 2 is the characters. I love the characters. Obviously, they could have done better, but like in terms of fleshing them out. But as in contrast to the first game, the second game is way better at delivering character
Right,
development.
right.
Like even though Leon is kind of a stale character in that game, he's very I'm going to protect everyone I can, and I love this woman and I don't know who she is. Like Leon, Claire, Ada, they're the top 3 my favorite characters in the series. They're like my favorite 3, and they're all in the same game, and this is all their introductory game. Resident Evil 2, I say characters, I wrote down characters, I really mean character story-ish kind of thing.
Right.
But if I had to pick between the story and the character, I think I would take the characters over the story. Resident Evil 2 is that game, like we said, it's the melting pot. Every other Resident Evil game literally comes from 2. Even the first one. Because it's Birkin and Albert. And you know what I mean? Like Wesker and Birkin, and like everything comes from 2 is like the roots that hold the entire series together. You can pick any other game, and if 1 didn't happen, you could still relate it back to 2. And it's the only one that's like that, because it's kind of like a flow chart. 1 goes to 2, and then 2 goes to everything. And I feel like it being the center point of gravity to the series, the story and the characters mean so much to me.
And the scale of the Raccoon City outbreak, because that's such a vital part of everything.
Yep.
You know?
And then, what did you put for the worst thing?
Worst thing? I mean, I just put lack of city exploration.
Yeah. Okay.
I just wish there was a little bit more. We got that in 3, but like obviously it's very like, you know, police station.
Yeah,
you're there for a while.
You're not really
You're-
in the...
You're not in the city.
Yeah, you're not in the city as much.
And again, like we say worse, it's not like, oh, it's terrible, but it's just one of those things where like I had to find
Well, my
something.
worst is terrible.
Oh, okay.
My
Okay.
worst is terrible.
Okay.
It's my favorite game.
Okay. Shoot.
The zapping system. So, now I know what you're thinking. John, how could you hate the zapping system? It's 4 campaigns and it's awesome.
And people screamed about it to
And
be in
screamed
2.
about it to be in Remake 2, which as you can see, you will see in Remake 2 later on when we talk about it. It's the second to last one we talk about. That's my least favorite thing again. I am a story first kind of person. And the inconsistencies that are bred from 1 and 2 with their campaign modes, just they irk me. Like they irk me big time. I don't like that Leon and Claire fight the same boss. I don't like... In Resident Evil 2 original, they at least switched up the boss fights to where it kind of makes sense.
Right.
A and B was really good in terms of... In the original Resident Evil 2, Claire A, Leon B was pretty consistent. And I feel like the game would have been a lot better if they just had that. If it was just Claire and just Leon. There was no A and B. There was just Claire dealt with Birkin.
Right.
Leon dealt with Mr. X. Like, if that was going to be the way the story was told, it would have been so much better. Because the bosses that you fight in the original Resident Evil 2 are all different. They don't fight the same boss in any single instance.
Right.
So, side note, why they did that in Remake 2 fucking pissed me off. I don't know why they decided, hey, let's gut. So, I have a little bit of opinion. As we go further into this discussion, like not in this podcast specifically, specifically, but in the Resident Evil talk, I'm starting to notice more things about Remake 2 and what I think they could have done better on. This is one of them, not to get off on a tangent, but it relates to this because the zapping system is the same.
It's a repeat.
It's a repeat, and I understand it, but like, it doesn't make sense why they couldn't have just came with one story. Resident Evil 1, like I said, my least favorite thing was the story character development, but a close number 2 for me, just as an honorable mention, was the fact that there's no clear story. You can't play the game and get the whole story. You just can't, because it's either Barry doesn't exist or Rebecca doesn't exist.
Right.
There's no like in between.
But then it's shown that they all made it out.
They all made
after
it
the
out.
fact, obviously, because
which
they're all
you
alive.
didn't even know that they all made it out, because you could have played Resident Evil 1. Again, sorry for the tangent, but you could play Resident Evil 1 and then go straight to 2 after you beat Jill's campaign, find that photograph and think nothing of it. Who's Rebecca? I don't know who that is. You could do that.
Right.
Like, and then
Yeah.
at the desk, you're like, wow, this is the STARS office. Who's the medic? I guess this is Kenneth's desk. But Kenneth was dead already.
Right. Because
So
some people could have just beat
yeah.
Jill and they were done with
yeah,
the
they
one.
were done. They were done
play-
with the one
right,
because they read online that Chris was the same thing, just with a different character. I don't care about that. Wesker's, dead. I don't-
Or some people that played RE2 might have just beat Leon A.
yeah, or they might have been Leon A and then Claire A, and then realized that there's the same game, except you get the vaccine. Like
Yeah.
that's the only difference.
Yeah, that's it.
So the zapping system's definitely my least favorite. I wish that one day we'll get a remake of all of the games, including the remakes we have, where they make the story one thing. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. You heard it here first. Timestamp it. I don't care what you want to do. I would be okay if they did not do that and they just released us a full-fledged canon CG film collection, where they released a Resident Evil 1 film in CG and 2 and 3, and it was just canon, where Jill and Chris were together with Rebecca and Barry, and then Leon and Claire were either together and then separate. Like, you know what I mean?
Right,
like, if
right,
they
right.
made the story actually concrete, I would love for them to do those films like they did Vendetta. Probably never happened, but that's my least favorite thing. Moving on to 3, we both have the same thing, which is not to shock anyone.
It's in the title.
It's in
Yeah.
the title. Nemesis.
Yes,
Yeah.
Nemesis is it's I mean, come on. I mean, it's like it's the staple of the game.
The game doesn't work without him.
No, I mean it's like he's chasing you from room to room. It's intense. It's like you're always on the go.
He has a theme.
It's a very fast game.
He has a theme,
He has a theme. He literally waits for you outside a save room, so you're never
and
really
the theme
safe.
changes
Yeah,
when you're in the safe haven.
It does. So it's one of those things where it's like, the reason why that game works so well, and it's my favorite game of all time, but the reason why I always just remember is just Nemesis would just scare the shit out of everybody because it was just
He's fast.
He's fast, man. He's got a fucking rocket
He's strong.
launcher.
He incapacitates you.
Yes.
He has crowd control. He can hit zombies. He has a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes with Nemesis that you just fundamentally can't have that game without. I even said this to Dustin earlier when we were kind of talking about this. I know you'll disagree, but you could take Jill out of that game and put any other STARS member, and that game would be just as good as it is now. You could put Rebecca, you could put Chris, you could put Barry, you could put Jill. It doesn't matter who the main character is. That game is about Nemesis. And that whole game's fundamental state is about him. Like, that is the core element of that game.
Nemesis, and then pretty much the dissolving of Raccoon City
Yeah,
as we know
the
it.
finale of Raccoon City, but it's really Nemesis.
Yeah,
Without
and that's my
Nemesis-
favorite thing. I mean, it's just like it's my favorite BOW. Is like is my it's up on the list for that many for
He's
so
probably the most iconic Resident Evil villain of all time, other than Wesker.
Yeah.
But, like, he's and if you include him as a villain, he's not really a villain.
right
But,
yeah.
He's, as far as bioweapons go, he's kind of like the pinnacle. I don't think he's near the strongest, but he's scary. I never thought about it this way, but
And he hunts.
and he hunts. Yeah, I never thought about it this way, but it's almost like the first game was all about suspense, and the second game was all about tension. I mean, I'm sorry, thrill. And the third game was all about tension. It feels like they're all different types of anxiety.
Right. Yeah.
All three of the games are different types of
anxiety is a good thing to throw around here because the sense of being overwhelmed in 2, and that really started to kickstart. And then all of a sudden now you got this person that's specifically after STARS members, and that's what Jill is. So it's like, all right, you're literally singled out.
Yeah, so now you're not just another face. You are the face.
Yeah, and you're dealing with,
Brad didn't
X, Y,
make
and
it.
Z. You're dealing, Brad didn't make it. You're dealing with the zombies. You're dealing with hunters. You're dealing with, everything else. And then you got Nemesis. But
And they all don't mean shit.
They don't because
Because
they're
he don't
just,
care about them.
No. He's good. His main reason is to make sure your ass is dead. And he doesn't give a fuck. And again, like, she's running for her life, trying to escape. And he's stopping her from escape. He shoots down the fucking helicopter at the clock tower.
He shoots down the helicopter.
Yeah, it's like he is
And
like
he's
in
just-
the way. He's
Yeah.
he's making sure that like you do not get out alive, and I like that. I just like that threat.
I do too.
And anxiety is like that's RE3 anxiety.
Yeah,
100%.
anxiety. All of them. But they're all different types of anxiety. And
Yeah,
he's
different
definitely
types.
suspense or not suspense. What did I say? Tension.
I feel like they were building these blocks.
Yeah, he's building the blocks because
Right.
he's definitely tension because there's no other game where your music changes.
No.
Like there's boss themes, but there's no other game where like when you're in the save room it changes because it's outside.
Or if you
Is that
like,
track called Tension?
I think so.
I don't
Yeah,
know
or
what that
something
track's
like that.
called. I'm gonna look it up.
But it's one of those things where it's like, I like the fact that like, you can walk, like even if you leave the save room sometimes and he's not there, but
Yeah.
then you go to like another door and then he'll appear on the other end
Or
of
he'll
that
open it.
room. Or he'll open, you just hear the door shut and then, or he jumps down from a rooftop. That like stuff like that is, that is really, that's what I'm saying. It's just, it's different. And I like the fact that he can appear with other enemies on screen. There's nothing.
It is. It's called Feel the Tense.
Feel the tense.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Feel the tension. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very tension oriented.
Yeah. So Nemesis has our pick for.
Yeah,
for that.
I don't think that's a surprise. What's your negative for 3?
It's really hard. The only really thing I can think of is like it could be longer.
It could be longer.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of ties into what I have. I believe the storytelling in 3 is weak. I think that for as grandiose as they were trying to go with like the end of Raccoon City.
See, that's where we differ. I don't think it's so
Yeah.
much weak, but it's more like I just think it could have been like a.
Well, when I say
longer,
weak,
but-
I don't mean the storytelling is bad. I mean the storytelling for 3 is
comparing it to 2.
it leaves a lot to be desired. It's so. Do you know how in Resident Evil 1 you're introduced to the tyrant, and like you research the tyrant and you know what the tyrant's about and what he's doing and all that? I feel like for storytelling purposes, while Nemesis is incredible and he's like amazing, you really don't find out much about him until the extended universe kicks in. And I would have liked it if it turned out Nemesis was from Raccoon City, like he was from the nest that Resident Evil 2 had. If he was from that lab, and whoever let him out,
They kind of elaborated on that.
They could have elaborated on that story more, which we might see in 3 Remake.
Well, so,
Like,
yeah,
we might.
That's
And
why remakes are.
That's why
great.
remakes are good, because they weren't thinking about that back then. But also, I want to preface this by saying the storytelling leaves a lot to be desired for me personally, because they didn't explore a lot of the story elements that were introduced in 3. They kind of introduced them and then didn't wrap them up, because Raccoon City was the wrap up. So like you meet Carlos and his team, and you learn a little bit about what they're there for, and then like they just all die. So it's like you never really hear like what they're like.
You
what
kind
they're
of know
really
they
there
were
for.
like.
You just
guinea
know that they're
pigs.
kind of there. Yeah, there were
'cause
guinea pigs and stuff like that.
Nikolai was pretty much luring them, so
Yeah.
he just wanted to get paid. You know.
And you do learn some more stuff about about the viruses and stuff, and you learn a little bit more about history. But
There's a cure.
yeah, and you learn about the cure and everything. And Nemesis is such a focal point of the game that I feel like Umbrella got pushed to the wayside, and they're not fully fleshing it out. However, to your point, this problem I have with the game could have been remedied if the game was longer.
Right.
If the game's pacing wasn't a little janked, and the reason why the pacing is janked is because everybody knows it was supposed to be a spinoff. It wasn't supposed to be a mainline title.
That's the big elephant in the room when you're talking about 3. It's like, this was supposed to be a spinoff.
And because it was coded as a spinoff, like programmed to be a spinoff, even if they gave it a new color, like a new coat of paint, it was still going to be lacking something. What we got is obviously amazing. I'm not, obviously, oh, here's John hating on 3 again. I'm not hating on 3. I'm just telling you the facts. And the facts is when it comes to a game, it was less thought out than 1 and 2. The reason why it's effective is because Nemesis is so good. And a special shout out to the live selection thing too, because that's really one of my favorite things too. I just couldn't pick it. Nemesis is just so much better. I like the experiment. Again, that left a lot to be desired. You were only making binary choices.
Right.
You were making I either get saved by Barry or I don't. If they would have made it like so that your actual game was different every time, that game would have been amazing. Like, it would have been even more amazing than it was.
Right.
Like, could you imagine if you didn't choose something, you just don't see a whole 30 minutes worth of Raccoon City,
and it's something that they can do.
You see something else.
It's something hopefully they can expand on.
3
today's
has
technology.
a lot of room.
Yeah, but today's technology and how long they can make games and the space is endless. It's like they can do whatever the fuck they want now.
There's so much room in Nemesis, like in the remake, potentially for them to add stuff. There's just so much, dude.
Yeah.
It's just so much.
Yeah, I think 3, like I said, it's hard for me to even think of something. But yeah, could be longer, but that's all I really have for that.
Yeah, I would say a close second to me for dislikes when it comes to leaving a lot to be desired. Like, if somebody's like, oh, well, you can't blame the game for that. You guys have to understand, I'm not blaming the game of any of the games for what we don't like about them, like the weakest thing about them. I'm just stating it. That's all. Do I think 3's bad? No, I don't. Just like when we get to 4, do I think 4 is a bad game because I have a bad, I have something about it that I dislike? No, I told you guys I dislike something about my favorite one. It's just coming down to it. Not to get defensive.
Right.
I'm just saying, Nemesis, objectively, on paper, it's kind of the start of a pattern you're going to see for the rest of these, where it almost feels like it was either rushed or not finished. And I think for the rest of these games, you're going to hear me talk about that a lot, where I feel like it was rushed, or I feel like they were trying to do something and couldn't capitalize on it. And that's going to be a lot of the negatives. The positives, though, on the flip side, moving on to Code Veronica, what do you got for that?
Alfred. That's what I like the most about it, because I think it's very it's fucking crazy. So I do think that for me, that aspect of the story is interesting because it kind of revolves around it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it revolves around the Astrid family and the Veronica virus.
Yeah. So I would say that's probably the best thing that I got from that game. It's far from my favorite game, but I do. That's going to be what I like the most about it. I mean, it's not like we just got, oh great, here's Wesker again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Here's Wesker again. And here we are, but now again with Wesker, you do see what he's become. Mm-hmm. So that was probably my second favorite. Is you do see more of Wesker and the fact that he didn't obviously.
He's got cat eyes.
We got Wesker's report from this as well.
It's Whisker.
Whisker, yeah.
Yeah, Whisker.
We got Wesker. But yeah, that would be my my say on that.
So, my favorite thing about Code Veronica, after much, 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 much heated debate, I feel like it's just astronomically so much better than the other games. Not that the games are bad, but nothing holds a candle to the soundtrack of Code Veronica, and Dustin would agree with me, because it's his favorite soundtrack. It might just be his favorite soundtrack of all video game history, but there's something grandiose about the soundtrack in Code Veronica.
Coming to vinyl.
Yeah, coming to vinyl. You've heard it here first. No, just kidding.
Yeah, Laced Records, give us
Laced Records
give us that
is
sponsor endorsement, please.
giving us 0 and Code Veronica. Yeah, please send us some free ones because I'm too poor to afford them. But yeah, it's just like the opening dun 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 dun. Okay, copyright claim for that, but it's like it's so. There's something about it that makes it so like awesome, and I'm a sucker for vocals in songs in video game soundtracks. Not like singing, but like
that
I love the opera sound,
opera-esque.
yeah, and like everybody knows, like all you guys know, like the Final Fantasy music's like my favorite, and it always all the bigger tracks have that stuff in it. It's so much better than the other things that I think that it's my number one. A close number two, honorable mention for me, is atmosphere. I love the atmosphere of Code Veronica. I'm not a big fan of Antarctica, of the snowy part. I think it's interesting. But especially on the PS2, it looks so bad.
Oh, Jesus.
It looks so bad that you can't really see where you're going.
Yeah.
The second part of Antarctica underneath is great. I love that part.
And it's not even
Monster
like
Steve.
Yeah, it's not even like all right, we're gonna make like it was like, for example, like Silent Hill 3. You can put the noise on and it has that like that's doing it artistically right. The PS2 version looks like shit.
Yeah, it's not. It's not trying to be Silent Hill. Oh, look at my. The fog is generated so you can't see.
Yeah,
that was a technical limitation that Silent Hill used to its advantage.
But even with 3, where it's like they don't have the fog and it's just like it's dark and it's noisy, I love it.
Code Veronica's
it works.
shit.
Code Veronica on PS2
looks bad.
Dreamcast, fucking love it.
Looks like someone rolled a fat pile of mushrooms and just like. And it was like, where's the coat of paint? Yeah, they ate the mushrooms
and
they were
probably
like,
snorted them.
This looks amazing.
Well, it's because like
Rob Zombie was the art director.
It's like muddy.
It's very blurry. It's like Outbreak.
Right.
I hate that fucking game.
Yeah, and I now the GameCube version of Code Veronica is a little bit different, but
the Dreamcast version,
the HD 360 one that's in 720 does look cleaned up.
It does
look clean.
The cutscenes
and thankfully that is, I believe, not on the PS4, but if you do have an Xbox One, you can play that 360.
Yeah, you can also play it on PS3.
They have it now because PS4 has
the PS2.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Code Veronica.
So I'm sorry if you have a PS4.
Yeah.
Try to track down the Dreamcast version and play Code Veronica.
Yeah, always play the Dreamcast.
Yeah, that's a tangent, but
yeah.
Same kind of thing though. It's like
this is awful. Like this is a weird plug, but if we have anybody living in South Jersey, and just to tell you, our local game store just got a Code Veronica copy in today.
Ooh.
Dreamcast, complete with booklet and everything. Might have to go take a trip.
How much?
I don't know. I didn't go today. But if you live in South Jersey, go check out All Things Video Games. They have a lot of cool stuff. So going to the negatives. I know somebody in the comments are going to be like, but guys, what about Steve?
Oh, Jesus.
But unfortunately, Steve is not on my list as the negative. My least favorite thing about Code Veronica.
He's a negative, but
he's kind of lovable.
No.
He's better than Barry
No.
in the first game, not ever fucking dropping the rope on you.
But come on, Barry's like so classic.
Do you know how like... Well, he's not better than Barry. I was just kidding when I said that. But do you know how like painful it is to shoot your dad with 4,000 bullets when he only took 10 to kill? Father!
But then you're taken out of the seriousness because the acting's so bad, and I think that's the problem.
And then you're put into the Hulk.
Yeah, exactly.
Claire, nice booty.
Yeah, it's like Jesus. Yeah. And like again, he's after the booty the whole game. That's his motivation, and then he
By
fails.
the way, guys, Steve is not on our lists.
No,
Steve is not our least favorite
my
thing.
negative thing for Code Veronica, my one thing is
Bandersnatch.
no.
I actually like them.
The pacing and the fucking story. Like, look, man, that game is like fuck. I get it's winded as fuck. Like,
I get seizures when I think of that game.
I just like, I'm sorry, but like, it's just not good. I get what they're doing with the story again, and I just said I liked the the Ashford, like I get
the Ashfords.
Yeah, the Ashfords. It's like I don't. I'm telling you right now, I I'm telling you, I can't. It's long, and it's just like I don't understand. I just don't. It's just like by the time I get to Chris, I'm like, I want to turn this shit off.
Oh, I turn the shit off when Chris comes around too, because he looks like a donkey.
He just doesn't. Again, it's like
My name's Chris.
you have all these characters, and you could do so much. Like you could have done so much. Like it's just like, bro, this was the RE4 of that time. This was Resident Evil. People call this RE4. What did you do?
Yeah.
What did you do?
Okay, so I love Code Veronica.
Pacing and story. That's all. That's my
Yeah.
negative thing, man.
So yours kind of goes with mine. My least favorite.
I don't even
thing
know what you have.
about Code Veronica is every single thing about the game, other than the soundtrack, did not live up to what the potential of the series was. Pacing, story, characters, character development, enemy design, Ashford's, like, looking, the graphics on the PS2 version, the pacing of the story, the composition of the story, the look, the pacing. I said that like 4 times.
Pacing.
Every single thing about the game did not live up to its potential. And I know people are going to be like, wow, he really hates Code Veronica.
Yeah, people right now are probably going to be pissed because people that listen to us love that game.
And I'm not saying I don't like it, because
Right.
it's like my top 5.
I was going to say.
Like, Code Veronica is amazing. But, and I said this to you earlier.
I probably feel the most negative about it over the years. I've shit on
Oh,
that.
well, Zero is way worse.
I
But
shit on that and Zero. I've
is
shit on
bad.
Code Veronica and Zero most in regards to like main like
yeah,
entries.
Zero is bad. Well, we'll get to Zero because that's two away. But Code Veronica is a unique situation where I feel like they had great ideas and they had great progression and they had everything lined up for them.
Everything you just mentioned had lined up.
Everything was great.
Yeah.
Everything was fantastic. But they didn't deliver.
They didn't execute.
They didn't
Yeah.
execute it to its fullest potential. And if done properly in a remake, and you've heard this here first, if done properly and loose ends are tied up and the game is presented in a way that makes sense and the characters are allowed to be themselves and actually get story progression, the concept, the design, everything, if everything is done the right way in a remake, it might just be my favorite Resident Evil game of all time. The remake. Because they had, the Ashfords are untapped potential, dude. They could have gone so cool.
Right, and they're my
into
favorite
them.
part about it, and I just wish, like, they are my favorite part about it because they're so interesting.
And the Veronica virus is cool.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, that's my point. It's like, it's like solid, right? But they just, again, like you said, they could have just took it to, I just feel like I was left, like, more, like, the appetite wasn't fulfilled.
Yeah, it
like,
wasn't- it wasn't delivered.
Yeah, I was still hungry.
You
at
got
the
a
end. I
half
was
a
like,
sandwich because the bitch at Wawa couldn't cut it right.
could've-
and then you only got a half a sandwich.
Shout out to Wawa.
Yeah,
Anyone
shout out
that's
to
in
Wawa.
Jersey.
Her name was Taylor too. I remember her. So if you're in South Jersey and you work at Wawa, cut your sandwiches straight. You ain't never getting married. Anyway,
Oh, Jesus.
I love all women. I'm not I'm not anti-feminist or anything like that.
I'm not a
just,
feminist.
I'm just making jokes. It's all fun and games. But yeah, dude, I feel like
It was there.
I feel like it kind of, we might be onto something with the anxiety thing, because the first game was all about
kind of like the start,
suspense.
the breaking point with
Yeah.
the suspense.
The second game was all about the thrill, the action. Like you were moving, things were fast paced. The third game was all about tension.
Someone on your
And
tail the whole
Nemesis is
time.
always on you, and it feels very tense.
Right.
The fourth game, Veronica, is almost like unsettling, because you have this guy who thinks he's his sister. And like he's like, oh, and it's like he's playing games with you.
Right.
And you don't know where you're at. You're just looking for your donkey cousin brother Chris. And you can't get in touch with Leon, and
Leon
like,
said, "Fuck you."
Leon's like, Chris, go deal with your sister. She's kidnapped again. And like, there's like so much stuff going on that Which also I don't buy, by the way.
What's that?
I don't buy it. just so you guys know.
What don't you buy?
If Claire emailed Leon and said, "I'm in danger," Leon's not going, "Oh, okay, let Chris know." Leon would be like, "Fuck this report I have to write. I'm going to get Claire, and Chris is coming with me." Like,
right.
Leon wouldn't have ignored her. That's not in his character. I think that was just plot relevance, like plot convenience, because they wanted to get Chris there.
That's what it is.
But Leon would have definitely.
They wanted Dis 2 to be like.
And what was the lore reason he didn't go? He was stationed or something.
Right.
He fucking would have just left. He'd have been like, unless Ada was keeping.
He was
him
still
there.
being questioned.
Maybe Ada was riding.
He was
him in
being
the bathroom.
questioned by by everybody after 2. So he was like, all right, I'm still being questioned. I can't.
Yeah, unless he couldn't go, which
right.
I don't think would happen. I think
right.
It is what it is. But regardless, Code Veronica is such untapped potential. Right. And it's so unsettling. It's such an unsettling story, and the tone of it. I love the doll. Like, I call it the dollhouse, but like his manner.
Yeah.
Where you're going up and there's just like the thing hanging.
That's my favorite area of the game.
And I like there's like little mechanics too. Like, I like the Bandersnatches and stuff. This is turning into a love session for Code Veronica, but
we have to talk about it because we don't want to seem like we're shitting on it.
It's not shitting on it.
Yeah,
but
right.
I feel like Code Veronica took a step in the right direction from 3. But it took too much of a step.
Because it was longer than
like,
3.
Oh my god, it was way longer than 3.
It was like the story was definitely more in depth, but it's just it didn't have the like again, like you said,
3 was too short.
It started that length. It had all the meat and potatoes of what you're looking for, but it just didn't.
Dude, just to put it in perspective, playing Code Veronica for the first time, somebody probably gets to Antarctica when most people beat 3.
Oh yeah.
Like, or even 2,
right.
or 1. Like, if they can even beat it. Because the tyrant fight on the plane's a bitch. And a lot of new people, especially people who aren't used to tank controls.
Not ready for it.
Dude, that thing, he's like...
Even our knife's killer in that game.
Oh my, dude, he's beating the shit. The knife's awesome. That was almost going to be one of my favorite things, too. But the soundtrack's just a little bit better. But yeah, Code Veronica is just one of those games where, like... You got to be careful, man, because if you bite off more than you can chew and you can't deliver it, it's not going to have as impactful as it could have been. Code Veronica has the potential to be the best Resident Evil game.
And I think that's why it's held in such high regard after all these years.
Because everybody loves Ash.
And they want to see a remake of it.
They want to see a remake.
That's been a topic in the community for a while.
I just want... let me do Alfred.
Oh, yeah.
I'll voice act Alfred. And please make Chris not look like a Donkey Kong. He don't even look human.
We're looking at a poster right
he
now
looks
for
like
you guys
an
are
alien.
listening.
He looks just wrong. Claire looks good, but he looks wrong. He just looks... Chris needs to get a consistent look. I swear to God, we should do a whole video.
He looks like he's on drugs in 7.
Yeah, we should do a whole video.
On the
he looks like my uncle. We should do a whole video about Chris is actually a shapeshifter. Like, he's actually
he's punching boulders.
What's it called? A tiefling? A tiefling?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's tiefling.
He's punching boulders in one game, and then he's using drugs in the next game.
Yeah, he's shooting up. He's shooting up in one game, and then he took the wrong fucking steroids.
He joined Blue Umbrella, and he couldn't get off the drugs.
Dude, Chris is... Oh my God, I never thought about this. Chris's look is literally following Hulk Hogan's career. So he was a spray-tanned banana in 5, and then he was on drugs and skinny as shit on 7. Anyway, we love you, Hogan. Not really, but yeah. So Code Veronica, I think we spent enough time on that. What about Remake? Remake, we probably don't really have much to say because Remake's like we've talked about it so many times.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to 1.
Yeah,
but Remake is a perfect game. I actually don't have anything that I put for negative on, to be honest with you, because Remake's 10 out of 10. I like it better than Resident Evil 2 Remake. I couldn't really think of anything that I don't like about it. I think it took everything.
I only have one thing I don't like about
I literally put no as a negative because I just don't. I was like, I couldn't, because it took everything from 1. Graphics are a lot better. Graphics still hold up. Soundtrack took that, made it even better.
I'll tell you what, RE5 Chris doesn't look right in that game.
No.
He looks weird.
No.
He's got a little head. He's like a voodoo doll.
Yeah, he's ridiculous in that game.
Yeah, he looks...
He's literally like a Brock Lesnar motherfucker. A roid raging motherfucker.
Chris in Remake doesn't look right either.
No,
He just looks.
I mean,
He just looks weird, dude.
I don't mind his look personally, but again, the main thing here is like remake is the I put expands the original to perfection.
Yeah.
And the essential classic style RE game.
So mine,
the essential
yeah.
classic style RE game, which is why it did so well, and because we got 2 is because the sales when they re-released it was so well, and I think that's what's Resident Evil. I give them remake. I said this in the RE2 podcast. I stand by it. Someone asked me, "What's Resident Evil to you?" I give them remake to play, because that is 10 out of 10 perfect.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect remake. My favorite thing about remake is the fact that they kept everything that the original game did perfectly.
Yes.
And then expanded upon it.
Right.
Which
so
is
same.
exactly
We had the same.
Exactly what I want
thing.
in my remakes. Is like
Right.
I want that to happen. For many people, especially people who own Nintendo products, it was the first Resident Evil game they ever played, and that set the tone, bro. Like they could have played 2,
and
which is it's crazy to see. Like if they played 2 and then played remake, like they got the best 2 games in a row you could possibly play.
Right, and it was put out on GameCube shortly after in 2003.
Yeah.
But the thing is like 2, it's like with 1, it brings you back to that isolation, to that and if anything now with the lighting effects and the thunder and like it's like it makes it feel even more terrifying.
Yeah,
like I remember like seeing the first zombie and just being like generally just like creeped out.
The first remake
you got the
is,
twitching.
Like we said,
the twitching body, and it's like that,
Kenneth.
like just the little things.
He has a name, Kenneth.
Well, Kenneth, you know what I mean. But
Piece of
like,
shit.
It's not just like a head that you never see for most of the part because you don't see it unless you finally got the DS version, unless you're in Japan. But Kenneth, like you see that it's just like the little details. It's like they were able to just make it like just really creepy.
Well, yeah, we talked about years ago. It's been years, holy shit. But like we talked about in like 2017, 2018, it's a timeless look. It ages significantly well. Mm-hmm. And if they were to ever remake that in Resident Evil 2 remake style, it's going to be amazing still. Like it's still going to be incredible. I would say that remake at this point in the game is a better remake of 1 than remake 2 is of 2. Because remake 2, which we'll get to when we get to remake 2, actually took everything that was wrong with the second game and made it all worse, but made everything that was good about the second game better. So it took a step in the right and wrong direction at the same time. It stretched the extremes, in my opinion. Resident Evil 2
and it has your
stretched the
opinions
extremes.
changed because with the RE2 show you did say different, but it has been.
It's still great. It's the second best or first.
I mean, it's almost been a year since we played it.
Mechanically, it's the
best.
For
the first time.
Yeah, mechanically, it's the best. But in terms of, like what I look for in a Resident Evil game...
Right.
To me, I would rank it below remake at this given time, strictly based on how much of a remake it was to the first game.
Yeah.
But if it makes sense, 2, Claire A. Leon B, is still a better game, in my opinion, than all of them. My opinion. So I would still say Resident Evil 2 is my favorite, followed by Remake, and now Remake 2.
So that's your, 3.
That's my 3. And the reason why, for Remake, that's so important to me is because nothing about the first game was bad, other than the story. And they took what was bad, and they made it better, and they kept everything else without changing it. So it was good. Like, they literally made it good, and they made it make sense. The things that didn't make sense in 1 original made sense in Remake.
And it expanded on the characters.
Trevor.
Yeah,
it expanded upon everything.
It gave them dialogue that wasn't cringy. Like, little things like that.
Their voice acting was still not the greatest, but it was better.
It wasn't as cringe,
And they kept some of the funny. And the Tyrant was cool, and you did see a little bit more of character development through Barry and Rebecca, and I liked that Rebecca and Barry helped you at the end, but they could die. Like, it was cool seeing that. They gave us more... Wait a second. Oh, no, that's 0. Never mind, that's next. I almost thought I forgot something. And they gave us more replayability. The game had different modes, which no other game has had since and has had before.
Real Survivor, you had
Real Survivor.
Enemy.
I mean, Real Survivor kind of got carried over to Remake 2.
Yeah,
because you have the trophies and stuff, but it wasn't like fully supported.
The invisible enemies was cool.
Yeah.
I wish they brought that in too.
Remake 2 would have been cool with invisible
that'd
enemies,
been cool.
especially lickers.
I'm sure someone can mod that.
Yeah,
on
PC. I'm sure
the,
PC.
The
has
world
it.
of PC. Someone do that.
Invisible Mr. X.
Yeah.
You just hear.
Yeah. You just get fucking punched.
Or you
he's
make
there.
him Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah. Yeah. That was funny. Or Big Smoke from San Andreas.
Yeah. It's funny.
Oh man. But yeah, remake, I mean personally, I just don't have anything negative about it.
I do.
Okay.
My biggest problem with remake is that there's still no clear canon. So their one opportunity to take it and say, here's a Chris story and here's a Jill story.
They did the
same thing to remake 2.
Right.
So they both suffer from this. And they're like, well, John, you just said it's a perfect remake. It is, because it's literally the same thing. But the only ding I can give remake is that it didn't fix the one issue I had with the original completely. It fixed most of it. Character development, stuff like that. Like, it did better. Did more backstory. But it didn't fix the fact that if you play as Chris, you don't see Barry. And if you play as Jill, you don't see Rebecca. And I don't know why they didn't fix that.
And they still all escape.
I would have been fine if it was just like... Bro, I would have been so fine if they just locked them up with them. Like, if Jill gets to where Chris is and fucking Rebecca's locked up with him, that would have been enough for me.
Right.
I'd have been like, okay, cool.
It's just like, where are they?
I just want to see them all fly away. That's all I've ever wanted to see.
And that's something where if they do
another remake,
that is when you do it.
That's when you do it. You do it like that. You do it.
Right.
Like Nike. Just do it.
Just do it.
We do it. That's my biggest flaw with it. Everything else, I really don't think that anything. I just thought of something about remake I don't like. And it's very, very nitpicky, but I feel like they scaled the difficulty down. Yawn is super easy. The hunters are super easy. They're slow. I feel like in the original game, they were scarier and harder to avoid.
Okay.
Now, that was also, fixed because there was Crimson Heads. And hunters and hunters and zombies could come through the doors, which was really cool. They could actually open doors. And they're like, you go into a room and it's like, that's really cool. I really like that. I do feel like some of the boss encounters were significantly scaled down, though. I wouldn't say that's anywhere near as much of a dislike as the other thing, but that doesn't change my opinion on where I'd place it.
Right.
It's still where I place it.
Yeah.
I feel like with
that's
some
a
more,
nitpick.
With some more fine tuning on the harder modes. The only thing harder about the harder modes is the enemies do more damage. I cleared the hardest mode on that with a knife relatively easily. That shouldn't be a thing. Like, Yawn should have been harder. The library fight's fucking easy. The attic fight's harder, but the library fight is a joke.
Right.
Even on Invisible Enemy. Like, it's kind of a joke. He's really easy, with guns especially. It's gotten to the point where when I play that game, I just knife that boss. Because I just save the ammo. I usually shoot like 2 acid rounds into his face,
right.
Knife him for a little bit, and then I finish him with a handgun. And he just dies. But that's like a nitpick. That's like a super nitpick. That's the same thing. Like, Nightmare mode on Resident Evil 2 original, holy shit.
Yeah.
They're way more aggressive. They're like,
so
everything
hard.
wants to butt fuck you. It's bad. And then remake the hardest difficulty, they just do more damage. That's it. That's all they do. The hunters aren't scary. Like, when a hunter hits you, even like when a hunter hits you, you ever notice like Chris and Jill, like they lean over, like they get hit, and then the hunter like goes back and then just waits for you? Like you have invincibility frames? It's immersion breaking. Like it braces my immersive experience when the hunter's waiting for me to be ready again. Like, I feel like, now, on the flip side, there was a lot of more cool things, too, like hunters being able to tackle you to the ground.
And you can use defense weapons.
You could
to
use
get them
defense
to fuck
weapons.
off you.
Chimeras could one-shot you. If they grabbed you, like, they could pick you up and slit your throat. Like, there's a lot of cool things that Remake did. But that's just one thing. I probably shouldn't have even said that, because then people are going to think that I'm hating on it, but I'm not. I'm just saying the difficulty was definitely underwhelming. Now let's move on to the elephant in the room. Resident Evil 0. Everybody, put your diapers on, get your toilet paper out, and get ready to clean up a mess, because this is going to turn into a poo-poo parade.
Oh, man.
So let's start with the good things, because there's so few.
Mine is Rebecca Chambers.
So is mine.
Yeah.
Shocker.
Yeah. Rebecca Chambers is, it's great to see her in her own, it's her game, in my opinion. I mean, it's really just, it's
her and Billy's game.
Yeah.
And she's the center character, because she's the
Right.
one we connect with, because she's the one we
I
know.
don't like Billy. I
like
like
Billy
Rebecca
too.
Billy, but Rebecca, she's, part of the OG squad. And
This is a very rare case. Resident Evil 0, we're both the same here, right?
Yeah.
So Resident Evil 0, I put expanding the pre-story, which is characters including, story including,
Sure.
everything like that.
Yeah.
This is the case, and I want to say this now, because I think you'll bounce off of this really well. This is the first, and I believe only case in the entire series where the story was good, and the gameplay let it down.
Yeah.
Like, it's the
Yeah.
only game
Yeah.
where the gameplay is the problem and not the story.
And you guys already know where we're going with this.
Oh, you better get your
Yeah.
fucking tight ass ready, because we're coming in.
It's
So now that we've talked about the good things, let's move on to the bad things for Resident Evil 0. Also, the music in 0 is really good. The music in 0 is really good too.
Yeah, the story, the music, the atmosphere. I love the train.
I like the
I love the
leeches.
lab. I love Marcus. Fine.
You know what I don't like? The hook shot.
Hook shot's weird.
The hook shot's weird because
Yeah.
it takes 2 inventory slots and you have to switch discs to get it.
That ties into item management and lack of item box.
I
and
wrote down,
throwing items on the fucking floor.
I said the item management and partner system
Yeah.
literally makes it so I can't wait for the retrospect on this video. I can't wait. I already know. I know they can't see this, but I'm literally, where is it? I'm literally going to be like this. Oh, I don't need this anymore. I don't need this anymore. I can't wait for the retrospect review. You guys can't see it, but
We're gonna throw down full size guns.
Yeah,
like
I just threw a gun on the ground.
we're gonna get like a
because I
first
didn't
aid
need it
spray and
anymore.
throw it.
But no, seriously, 0 is a train wreck. Literally. Haha, did you see what I did there?
I see what you did. Yeah.
Woogity, woogity, woogity. It's a train wreck. Gameplay wise, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's like,
the pacing isn't bad. It's not nothing to do with like the beats. It's the actual mechanics.
its gameplay is the equivalent of a live action Resident Evil movie. It's bad, bro. Like, it's bad. It's the only game. Okay, so I'll do this. Ready? All right. It's the only game in the series that I physically just don't want to pick up because of the gameplay. Let that sink in. I'll wait. It's the only game I actually dread picking up
I think we were
because
talking
I
about
have
this on the phone
because
earlier.
I
Yeah.
have to throw items on the ground. I'm like, yeah, 0's awesome. I'm gonna crash the train. I'm gonna take Billy, and Billy's gonna get hit. And I'm not gonna care. He's gonna call over the radio for help. Wait, why am I playing this? Wait, why am I playing this? And then Wesker mode's not any better because then it's just Wesker screaming for help. Rebecca. Oh, he's got me.
Yeah, it's like
Although you can supercharge people, which is so janked. Wesker's just like Sonic the Hedgehog's down the hallway and knocks everybody over.
but still needs help.
Oh, you know the game where items are terrible? Go find 99 leeches.
Yeah. Yeah, fucking right.
Fucking Resident Evil 0 could fuck off.
It's funny because
Who is
like
the director? Fucking Dan Berlew wrote that game's gameplay mechanics.
I think it was Logan Cross. He messaged Dan Berlew and was like, yo,
No, he didn't.
Yes, it was on Discord today. I saw it, and it might have been posted before it.
Yeah.
He
No, he
sent
didn't.
shout out to Logan. He was like, "Yo, you gotta try to be on a Resident Evil podcast," and I just no reply.
No
Just
reply?
Yeah, I don't know if you read it. I didn't check, but so funny.
Oh,
But
jeez.
no, I completed and platinum all the trophies on Remake, and then I look at the trophies on Zero, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't feel like doing that.
And
the
it
last
had
time I
some cool
played
things.
it was when I brought the CRT here and we
Yeah.
played it for the anniversary.
It's just
And that was it, dude. I was done.
It's just
I was done.
oh my god.
Like you said, it's the
the
opposite.
part where
It's-
Rebecca climbs into the box and Billy's like, "Chunk," and she goes across the waterway where it physically separates you. Oh, you know the partner system you like? We're going to separate you the whole fucking game. It's just...
we don't like it, guys. Now, you guys might not have a problem with it as much as we do, but this is a main reason why I put Zero lower on the list for me. Main fucking reason.
In terms of what? In terms of gameplay or in terms of story?
Gameplay.
In terms
the story,
in terms of gameplay, I'm looking at a wall with posters. Shout out to Dustin's poster collection. I'm looking at Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil Remake, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil Code Veronica, Resident Evil 5, 4, 6. Resident Evil Degeneration has better gameplay than 0, and that's a movie. I'm looking at all these posters. I think the only game it plays better than is Dino Crisis 3.
Jesus.
In terms of gameplay, it is I would say the 4th or 5th worst in the series. Umbrella Corps below it. Survivor's below it, because that shit's janked. Dead Aim's below it, because that shit's weird. It's just weird going from third person to first person.
Yeah.
It's just weird. It's not bad, it's just weird.
Yeah, it's
I'd
awkward.
rather play 0. And Outbreak is below it, in my opinion, because of the way that game is presented. Now, if they ever did an HD master of that game, that would be above it for me.
Right.
If Outbreak didn't look so bad where I couldn't find where I was looking, I think I'd put... Dude, 0 sucks. The gameplay is bad. It's got a Conan O'Brien in it, right in the beginning on the train. I don't know.
Not a fan.
The gameplay is bad, bro. And the puzzles were cool, solving puzzles, you had to turn the keys at the same time.
Yeah.
To get to the
The enemies were cool.
But it was stupid.
The monkeys and the
It was let us just waste your time.
Right. The boss fights were good.
You literally kill the Queen Leech, the second form or the third form, whichever one's before the final form. The weird one in that part where the platform where you get the A and B key. You literally kill it, and then you have to pick up both keys, and then you have to use both keys. It's why? It's like Resident Evil 2 Scenario B, when you get the cabin key, and then you use it on the door right where you pick it up.
Right.
Here, Dustin. Shout out to Dustin. He is here. He's off working on other stuff in the background. But you literally get the keys, and then you use them. What a waste of my fucking time. And then the whole point of the game is that you're a partner. You're doing this thing with Rebecca and Billy. And then one of them can't fight the last boss with you. Because they're busy cranking the cranks. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Billy holds his magnum up. I don't know. It's just bad. Looks amazing. Looks better than Remake. They had more time to work on it.
Right, right.
It looks better visually.
I feel like they got too cocky.
No, they didn't get cocky. They got stupid.
Well, no, they tried to get too cocky with now that we mastered Remake, let's try to switch up the
Let's
gameplay.
make it different.
Yeah, it's no.
Could you imagine if Code Veronica you had to drop items on the ground?
Oh man.
Could you imagine?
Even Remake, imagine if they just took item boxes out of Remake.
I'd rather play 7.
100%, yeah.
I'd rather play 7.
Oh yeah, I'd rather play 6. I'd rather play 6. All 4 campaigns back to back.
Yeah. I would rather play anything.
Yeah.
Oh, well, not anything, but I'd rather play...
Something.
I'd definitely play 0 over Dino Crisis 3. But, anyway.
We're moving on to 4.
0 is a bad game. Not because its story lets it down, but because its controls let it down. And I'm not controls, its gameplay. The mechanics are pretty bad. It's neat the first time through. Don't get me wrong. It's neat the second time through.
I guess it's definitely worth playing if you're a fan.
It's worth playing. You have to play it.
Because again, it's like the story and the characters.
You play it
Rebecca
once.
And,
My recommendation for anybody who wants to play that game is play it and record it, and then when you want to play it again, just watch your recording and don't suffer. Like, just watch the recording in the background. Well, you know what? We'll post a long play on the channel for you guys.
Yeah.
We'll get Dustin to do it. Dustin just hangs himself in the room.
I'm not playing it.
I'm not playing it. We'll get Dylan to do it.
Oh, Jesus. That's suffering.
Dylan's like,
Danger
wait,
Dylan. He's gonna
Danger
get.
Dylan.
He's gonna get screwed by the fucking the
Mimicry
monkeys.
mark. Oh yeah, the Eliminators.
Yeah. Let's move on to 4.
Yeah, 4.
Enough
Let's go
of
to
0.
Let's go to a positive thing.
Somewhat. Mostly. Yeah. Still one of the best games ever made. Still.
People
RE4.
argue that RE4 is the best game ever made.
It's up there.
It's very.
That game was like crack when it came out. I played that shit so much, and my favorite thing kind of goes into why I played it a lot. Because of so much shit and so much replay value and so much unlockables.
Yeah. That was the other thing. Before we move on to 4, the number one lesson for 0 is the reason why all that stuff is so bad is because it absolutely destroys that game's replayability. That's a game you buy, you put on the shelf, and then you never touch it again.
Right.
Like, it's bad. Especially the GameCube version, because then you have to switch discs if you leave items behind. Replayability for that game is really bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad. Anyway, moving on to
that's a pain in
4,
the ass.
a
Yes.
game that has probably the best replayability in the series.
Yes. And one of my favorite games of all time.
Yes.
Probably my top 5.
It's in my top 10, or top 15.
RE4, for me, the weapon and upgrade system, also merchant. That's one of my favorite things about
What are you
it.
buying?
Yeah, because it added, it added some elements of grinding and trying to get, money and currency, but I like that because you had to manage that, and there's just something about it, the inventory management, I like that shit.
It's not stale.
Right. It
Yeah.
was refreshing for the series. Not only did you get, the behind the back camera, which that pioneered a lot of it. Obviously Dead Space wouldn't exist without it. And Dead Space did something even different with their upgrading system where you would have to find the cores and stuff.
The parts. Yeah.
To upgrade and stuff. And that's cool. So what Forks kind of pioneered that and gave it its own spin, Leon being upgraded, your health, your
So what
yellow
you're
herbs
saying
and everything.
Resident Evil 4, the gameplay saved it. But Resident Evil 0, the gameplay let it down. It's literally the opposite.
Right.
In my opinion.
This is a good... No, I think so.
I think it's literally the opposite of 0 in this case, where the gameplay saved it and the story kind of...
Because keep in mind, you're playing through that game and you're trying to fight your RE4. You're playing through it and you're trying to get all the money that you can, everything. Every time you see a merchant, you're like, all right, what attachments do I need? What do I...
there's a treasure system.
Right. So, with the style that it was going for... That works, and for me, that was my favorite thing about... I mean, obviously, the stories, some people would argue this is where it started to go downhill.
The story's definitely not presented in the best way.
Right.
But for what is there, it's good. I would say it's almost Code Veronica-esque, where they tried to do a lot with it. And it didn't live up to what it could have been, but it's nowhere near as falling as short as Code Veronica's did.
Right.
Yeah, because it's 4's good self-contained. In the universe, it's a little lackluster, but self-contained 4's story is good enough. You know why you're there, you know what you're doing, except for my least favorite thing, which we'll get to.
Right.
But you know what you're doing, you know where you're going, what you're looking for, the president's daughter. The gameplay makes sense, you're introduced to concepts as they go through files, like Diplagus and stuff. So the story's really good.
Right.
I agree with you on most of it. I think that those are all definitely my number 2 and 3 things. I won't lie. My favorite thing about Resident Evil 4 and the reason why I spent hundreds of hours playing that game was the return of Leon and the return of Ada. my number 1 and number 3 favorite
It
character.
did progress those characters.
a lot.
It
Because
did.
it shows you where Leon was
Yeah, right.
in his career at that
and
point.
how fucking badass he's gotten.
And so
doing flips and
suplexes,
fucking, yeah.
yeah,
He's
fighting El Gigantes.
government agent motherfucker. You know,
Yeah.
he's went from a rookie cop to the, like, again, that, like, point A to point B, like,
Yeah.
where he's been.
He hardlined it, dude.
And we obviously can see, you know, when you play all the Ada stuff, you see where, you know, where
Yeah,
she's
you see
been.
where Ada's been. She's just as tricky as she's always been.
Right.
And Leon
Still
finally
mysterious,
finds
kinda.
out that Ada is alive.
Right. Which is crazy to think that he lived with that all those years.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you find out.
Well, he kind of sort of makes it a point, like when he's talking to Ada, he gives the impression that he knows that she was alive. Like he kind of heard rumors and stuff. And then he's like, so the rumors were true. You're working for Wesker.
but it's like, where did he hear that?
It's never explored. So like it's one of those things, and that's what I mean by forced story is kind of
Right,
It's like good
right.
and not good, because it's like expansive and it's
Krauser,
not.
too.
No, that's my least favorite thing.
Right.
So getting on to my least favorite thing, I love the Leon Krauser rivalry that we get in 4. However, my what was your least favorite thing?
My least favorite is the action consumes the horror elements. a
Yes.
little bit.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I really like.
I would say almost not to talk about that here, because that's going to be used in a future show. We could probably say it now. I mean,
Right.
for anybody who's listened this far into this podcast, we have a show coming out later this December. It's actually going to be our Christmas special, and our Christmas Eve special, where we're going to talk about the long-awaited controversy of action Resident Evil versus horror Resident Evil.
Yes.
So 1 through Code Veronica versus 4 through 6.
But I had to put it down here because this is where it starts.
Yeah, this is where it started.
I can't write down this
Yeah.
list and not put that.
Yeah.
So that
That would be
me.
your least favorite thing.
Yes.
I would say that's definitely close to my least favorite thing. I would say
Okay.
it's second.
Right.
For 4, I kind of give it a pass because I'm a sucker for Leon. Honestly, like he's my favorite character. I relate to him the most. And with him being in the game, it was enough for me to overlook that a little bit.
And I can see that.
It's definitely we both know it's a 10 out of 10 game. Like
Right.
it's a 10 out of 10 game. For what a game is supposed to do, Resident Evil 4 does it
Because sometimes we're
masterfully.
talking about this stuff,
Yeah.
even with like remake, and we would still give it a 10 out of 10. We're just
for
really,
sure.
this is for the sake of the
Yeah.
discussion and the podcast. Like we're trying to see like
Yeah.
what our favorite, and then like what things we could kind of pull from it of like, okay,
Yeah, and
This
my
could have been done
biggest
better.
Yeah, my biggest gripe with 4 is a story element, and I would say the reason why it seems silly, and some of these things moving forward might seem silly to you guys, but they're really bad for me to the point where like going from horror to action was less of a deal to me than this little thing. Like this little thing pisses me off, and it's the fact that when you're first introduced to Krauser, and Leon has a rivalry with him, it's very unimpactful the first time you play the game if you don't know who Krauser is from Darkside Chronicles.
because they have this history.
They have a history, and it almost feels like, so it's you again. Krauser? What are you doing here? It's like, who the fuck is Krauser? Like, I don't know who Krauser
Right,
is.
and he
Did he
kidnapped the
fuck his
daughter?
mom? Or did
Yeah.
he, like, what did he do to Leon that makes Leon and him, like, see, oh, Krauser, so it is you. Like, oh, comrade, I'm gonna kill you
and
this
he
time.
was sent to kidnap Ashley.
And he was sent to kidnap Ashley, and like how he got through there and did his Krauser things. Like I don't understand.
did
like
his Krauser things.
and now I don't hate Krauser as a character.
Sure.
Krauser's fine,
He's cool.
but I wish that I almost wish that Darkside Chronicles
Came out before.
came out before Resident Evil 4 and was more accessible to Resident Evil 4. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it was years later. Like, GameCube was before the Wii by a long time.
Right.
4 was before the Wii
For
came out.
2005, and then Darkside came out in 2009.
9 or 10.
Yeah.
I think Umbrella Chronicles was 2009 or something like... let me look.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. But yeah, so that's my least favorite thing. I don't know, guys. It's just... It's annoying because it's not as impactful as it is. That's why I always say Oh, Dustin's a perfect example of this. So Dustin has been showing his friend, which will go unnamed for simplicity's sake, the Resident Evil franchise. And he's been showing him chronologically them in order, right? And I don't think he's played through Umbrella Chronicles or Darkside Chronicles yet, but he's going through 4. I believe he's almost finished 4, or he's about to beat it. And I said to him, or I believe I said to him, I might not have talked to him about it, but one of the things, like, in this situation where his friend's experiencing that for the first time, if he was to experience the Darkside Chronicles Operation Javier before they played 4, the Krauser part would be more impactful. In my opinion, playing through 4 and having Krauser there is less impactful than it could be with Operation Javier. Introducing yourself to a new villain, and the villain's going to be a villain just because, like, you're not given any backstory. Even if you get the backstory later, it's the same reason why it doesn't work in movies. You don't just meet a bad guy and then the bad guy's like, yeah, I'm going to fuck everyone in the ass. you're not meaning, like, the bad guy usually, it shows you some dark past of theirs or something to build up what the villain's going to be.
Because even RE4 could have cut to, like, a cutscene or some shit.
Yeah, RE4 could have been like, Krauser, what are you doing, from all them years ago? And then it could have cut to a cutscene like they did with Billy.
Right.
Where Billy was shooting people in East Ya Bumblefuck. Like, it's just like, that's my biggest gripe with 4, is just that. And one of the things that we'll touch upon more on, like, your negative side right there too, in which we'll go more in depth in the horrorverse, what we're going to call it, the horror, #horror v action.
Right.
Horrorverse action. I think that everything becoming more explosive, like my opinion of Resident Evil 6 is it's a Michael Bay game. Like, everything becoming more explosive, like with you throwing grenades and being able to buy rocket launchers and all this other stuff, it almost takes away from the scariness of the game because you can just throw your arsenal at things. I think those are really important too. Talk about.
Right. Yeah, no, I think with the way 4 is, I always see it in the community. It's always like a mixed bag for some people in regards to what they like and don't like, but usually it's mostly positive. But
I mean, a shout out to my favorite YouTuber, Maximilian Dude. He said that his at one time it was his second, but now it's his third. But his third favorite game of all time is Resident Evil 4. And he's a fighting game guy. Like, he loves fighting games.
Right.
And it's funny to think that in his top 3 video games of all time, there's no fighting games. His number 1's Final Fantasy VII. His number 2 is Bloodborne. And his number 3 is Resident Evil 4.
Wow.
And he's a huge Capcom fan, too, with Street Fighter and all that. But it's one of those things, like, even somebody who is massively into one genre of video game
can like 4.
Loves 4 to the point where it's in his top 3 favorite games of all time.
It's such a good game.
It's such a good game.
Yeah,
it's such a good game.
That moves on to 5 now.
Oh, 5's going to be fun.
For me, Resident Evil 5, my favorite thing was the co-op. Me personally, I spent a lot of time with the co-op, and I like the dynamic because it took the gameplay of 4, a little bit more action. So, there's that little thing there. But again, not going to elaborate so much on that now. But the co-op worked, and I think it worked with the enemies on screen. I think it worked with the puzzles, and like they gave it that dynamic. Sheva wasn't the most memorable character, sure. There's that aspect of it. But I just like co-op. I like being able to play RE with my friends, and I played it with literally everybody that I knew that had that game, and I played it so many fucking times.
Yeah.
And obviously the co-op and the Mercenaries kind of expanded upon that because you had co-op in 5. In the main game, you had co-op in Mercenaries, which you didn't have in 4. So that kind of bleeds into Mercs as well. The co-op just fucking worked. And RE5 for me, that was my favorite thing about 5. Co-op, hands down.
Yeah, co-op. So, in contrast to that, I've had a very, very, very different experience with 5. It's not my least favorite thing, so I'm just going to talk about it real quick here. But I actually dislike the co-op a lot. I didn't have any friends to really play. I wasn't really around that console generation because I was really, really into MapleStory and World of Warcraft at the time, and RuneScape even. So I played a lot of MMOs at that point. So I wasn't really into the console scene in the PS3 360 era. So I didn't really play a lot of 5 in the beginning. But going back and visiting that game was brutal, playing with that AI when the game was built for co-op. I miss more cinematic single-player approaches. That's why I liked 4 way more than 5 and 6.
And 5 does suffer if you just play
by yourself
with the CPU.
Yeah, it's just it's not the
Sheva
same.
wastes ammo like nobody's business.
Yeah.
That's why it's better to just give her nothing. But it's better to have someone that can keep control of their own stuff. Because what I liked about it is when you played co-op, even if they had all their shit with Chris, all that shit would just go to Sheva. And, they can manage their stuff the way they manage their stuff. So, like, if John had a really good inventory and I had a really good inventory, we're fucking set.
Yeah, everybody's
But when
good.
you do the CPU, it's like, all right, well, she's not gonna, she's gonna get caught or she's gonna get hit. It's like,
Yeah.
that can easily destroy the experience, and I 100% understand why.
Yeah, it's just it's just different.
Especially for people like yourself that they just didn't have like the time to do that. But
Yeah. So now that's not my least favorite thing though.
okay.
My favorite thing about Resident Evil 5 is Lost in Nightmares. I'm not going to get too far into it. I just love the Chris and Jill versus Wesker scene.
Such good DLC.
I love the DLC for that game.
Yeah.
And I will go on record as saying that should have been the opening for Resident Evil 5. It should not have been DLC. Like, you should have started...
I can second
you
that.
You should have
Yeah.
started there.
Yeah, because you do see the flashbacks of that in the cutscenes, but like, imagine playing that, and then it cuts to Chris driving into Kajuju meeting Sheva, and he has the flashes of her gravestone and everything. It would have flowed perfect.
It would have been way better. Now, my least favorite thing, what's your least favorite thing about 5?
For me, I put forgettable villains. Just like
so
Irvin,
that's really funny.
Excella, like, I
that
didn't
goes
give a
into
shit.
mine. That goes into mine because my least favorite thing of Resident Evil 5 is literally the reskinning of every Resident Evil 4 monster or enemy.
Yeah.
It's just another jabroni who's holding a jabroni weapon who's coming after you as a jabroni or a chainsaw.
Yeah,
it's just another. It's an exact replica.
It could have been a little
format-wise.
bit more creative.
It could have been more creative.
Right.
Now Irvin's fight's a little. His little squid.
Yeah.
Like they've got some different.
So long, suckers.
Yeah, I like the Ouroboros. Like I like the the different kind of like when the tentacles are out and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like the one fight where you have to like burn it. I like the fight. I like the monster in the lab too. Like the weird 4-legged thing. I like the bioweapons. I don't care about the Manjanis, dude. Like the Manginis.
Maginis.
The Maginis can suck my dick. Okay, like I didn't care for the Ganados either. Like the people. I don't play Resident Evil to shoot.
But
humans.
I think this is also a topic that also will go into what we're saying.
For
the
sure.
action was hard because this is the turn.
Exactly.
This is the turn in the time. This is when things started to change. When you're starting to get shot at.
Let's lie for a minute. How fun is that LG gun? Or how fun is the Sahara chase?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Don't get me started with the El Gigante truck battle.
Yeah,
on professional with the gun on the top and the gun on the bottom. Oh my God. That is a pain in the ass.
That is so bad.
I don't care what anybody says. That's a fucking pain in the ass.
It is. It's a bad experience. It's a bad game.
Yeah. You don't like 5 as
It's a bad
five,
game.
I like 5 more than you like
that
5.
game right there is a bad game. And the reason why it's bad is Dustin said this earlier. Now, Dustin doesn't think it's a bad... I don't know if he thinks it's a bad game or not. I don't care. The point is, Dustin said something that made me think of it. And I was like, you know what? Really? It is a bad game.
Yeah, you don't like...
He said the same... He said something to me that really made sense. And it was... It feels like in Resident Evil 5, they tried to do too many things. They tried to reach out and have 5 become the Resident Evil 2 of the series, where everything comes back to it. The progenitor virus, Jill, Chris, Wesker.
I did like that it was a reunion.
Africa. Like, there was like they were trying to do so much with the game that it was too much. And it was a bad game. Like, it was just a bad
I'm telling
game.
you right now, I don't know if it's just nostalgia for me, but like, I did enjoy the aspect of the reunion.
Yeah.
Of like,
well, there's some scenes in 5 that are great. Like,
Right.
I love this, like I only have so many minutes to spare.
yeah,
We're gonna
7
fight
minutes.
you.
Yes.
7 minutes.
Yeah,
7 minutes is all I can
Jill
do.
battle suit.
Is
cool.
I hate the final fight.
I like it.
Yeah. Do you know scientifically you'd be on fire?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
the game's
like,
got a game.
Well, the
man.
game's got a game for like gameplay purposes.
But he's punching
Okay.
a boulder.
No, I'm not even talking about that. That's more realistic than them standing in the volcano.
Just because they already made it there at that point.
And that's what I'm saying. When you line up, when you look across here, right? Every game is somewhat believable until you get to that one. Once you get to 5, there are things that are happening that literally don't make sense. Even 6 is more believable.
No.
Yes.
Come on.
Even 6's Michael Bay movie
No,
shit
it's not.
is more believable.
You're telling me that Leon is going to run through a slew of cars while there's an oil canister caving in behind him, and he's running, and he's able to they're able to land in a helicopter and crash into a building
so you wanna
unscathed.
So you want to know what? They're not unscathed. That's just...
Oh, get the hell out.
Okay, ready? So listen, I'm going to tell you this. All of that is hysterical, and it's crazy. But I know for a fact you'll catch on fire in a volcano. In that situation, it was possible. And I know it was possible because have you ever seen the fucking trailer for Fast and the Furious, like 18?
Probably.
When when the girl leaps across one highway to the other from the car door? Have you ever seen that trailer?
Yeah.
Shit like that doesn't happen in 6. The helicopter scene is awesome and cinematically perfect. It's still action, so it sucks, but
They crashed through a whole
dude,
building.
I love when Leon is on the glass and it starts cracking and he's like, "Run!"
Yeah, but I mean,
Milady?
I guess you have to assume that Leon knows how to fly a chopper.
I mean, I'm sure he does. I mean, his track record of having Mike and everybody else shot down was so bad that he's like, I'm just gonna learn how to fly it myself.
I can't trust these motherfuckers.
Yeah, in his defense, right? So if you take in consideration, like, this is kind of like off topic, but BSAA, Leon, like all that stuff that the BSAA learn, and then like what Leon's organization learns,
Right.
They probably know how to drive everything. Like, because in Revelations, like, they're just like messing with the boats, and they're like, oh, communication tower.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, 5 is it gets very unrealistic.
So John is saying 5 is not good.
If 5 is
Like
gameplay,
0 not good?
No, gameplay it's better than 0. Gameplay, co-op is fun. Mercenaries is fun. I love Sheva.
DLC is good.
I actually like Sheva as a character too.
Yeah.
I think that she should have been not in the game. I know that sounds weird, but I still think that it should have been Jill and Chris the whole time.
Yeah, me too.
Chris is getting... So... That just basically means that we have to change the whole game. But if they put Lost in Nightmares as the actual opening of the story, Sheva makes sense to me. Without it as the opening story, yeah, he has the flashback, Jill! Like, it's cool and all, but it's stupid.
Or you make Lost in Nightmares the end, and instead of the ending with the volcano, you change that somehow, where it's like they think they kill Wesker, but then Wesker comes back then, and then you lead that into 6. Mm-hmm. That would have been some, like, reverse shit.
Well, it would have been cooler if 5 was just a different game. Like, if 5's story is its biggest weakness.
No, I would say that too. Like
it's
I'm
its
praising
biggest
5,
weakness.
but like I'm kind of the same thing with 4, where it's like the story's like
It's getting a little weird.
Right.
Because, like Dustin always says, they're finding more shit. First it was the T virus. Then it was the G virus. Then it was the TG virus.
He's in the lab and he
then it was
he
fucking
wipes
parasites.
He finds the little umbrella thing at the bottom, and then you fight the lickers.
Now
again.
it's Ouroboros from Ebola, which wasn't even known about in that world, because it's a new virus that we found there or whatever, right? And it's like we're always finding more shit. In the words of Dustin, that's credit to him, and it's true. My favorite part of 5 is the lab, though. I love finding the lickers.
Yeah.
I love the lickers in lab, and I love them like climbing up the walls and stuff.
Yeah.
The volcano part's stupid. And literally, and everybody memes about Chris punching boulders. I don't give a fuck about that. He would be on fire. He would literally...
That's well into the fight.
Your guns wouldn't even shoot if you were that close to lava. Like... They wouldn't even... They would be melting! They would literally...
There'd be skeletons.
The barrel would curve, and your guns wouldn't operate properly if you were that close to lava. Somebody go fucking do the research. I guarantee you. You wouldn't even be able to shoot, my guy. Like, you wouldn't even be able to shoot. And Wesker... falls into the lava. You're telling me that Wesker falls into the lava and isn't dead? He comes out of the lava like, crash. No, that fucking piece of shit's dead, okay? If you land in lava, there is one organism, I think, in the whole world that can survive in lava temperatures. It's like a bacteria or something. And it's got like literally the longest name ever. It's like 300 letters, I think, something like that. The game's bad. The story's bad. The gameplay's okay. I like the gameplay. The gameplay is decent enough.
It's not on 0 level.
No, it's not anywhere near 0 level. But I feel like 5 plays like 4. It almost feels like 4's better, though, in gameplay. Because of the co-op mechanic. If you were playing with a friend online and you didn't have a split screen...
You would compare it to 4?
5 is great. Split screen, 5 is bad. I hate split screen, me personally. It's weird. It's janked. Like, you can't see a lot. And when you feel like you can't see, you just don't have a good time. Like, I've never had a good time with split screen games. Unless it's like...
That game needs system link so you can actually
Yeah, it needs like system
link.
link. I like split screens when it's games like Puzzle Fighters. Like,
right.
Games where it makes sense.
Yeah, 6 had the same problem with the split screen.
Yeah, 6's split screen was not as bad as 5, though.
Well, that's
5
5
fucking had the 2 boxes and the, like...
6 did the same thing because they can't position the aspect ratio.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Half of the TV was used by nothing.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
5 is a bad game. I just don't like it, bro.
It seemed like they wanted to implement elements of like the heat like affecting you and slowing you down.
That's all.
They never
5.
did that.
That's all 5
It's
needs.
all bullshit.
You need to drink water.
It's all bullshit. They
need to
never
drink
did
water.
anything with it. It was all bullshit. So it's like, why did you set it in a...
Survive the heat and fight the Mangini's.
But I like the lab because that's when it's like, it's a little bit darker.
Yeah,
the lab's
lab's
a little
good.
bit different.
The
like,
lab's
it's
good.
different. For me, RE6,
Yeah.
Mercs is my favorite thing.
Yeah, and my favorite thing is the storyline, actually, for Leon and Ada. So, the Mercenaries for 6 is fun as hell. It's just fun. You know what's not my favorite about 6? We're getting kind of derailed now.
What's that?
The train. Because Dylan can't not die there.
It's not that bad.
My whole life in that game was my character Leon screaming, Helena! Because of how many times that fucker died at the train level. And if you're watching or listening to this, Dylan, fuck you. All right? You piece of shit.
The RE6, the Mercs was the saving grace for me.
Yeah, Mercenaries was probably the best.
Just put a lot of time into that thing.
It's
6.
probably the best of all of them. 6.
It's so good.
6 is really good.
And No Mercy's even better.
Yeah.
The Mercs No Mercy on the PS4 and Xbox, also PC. But if you played it on 360 and PS3, you didn't play that version. But I wonder if the Switch version has it.
Probably. The Switch has everything, I think.
It should, but I know it should have it.
Yeah.
It should.
So for me, it's the storyline premise. Like, I love Leon and Helena's campaign.
Do you like the multiple scenarios?
I don't.
Okay.
I think that...
So it stops, like you said, it stops after Leon and Helena for you.
When you play Leon and Helena, that gives you such an experience that's good. It sets the pace.
There's zombies again.
It so
reintroduces
good.
zombies.
Yeah, it reintroduces
after the Maginis we just did disliked in 5.
Yeah. So there's so much about 6 to like when you play Leon and Helena, and it sets a certain feel for the game. And no matter which other campaign you go to, that whole feeling is fucking shit all over and lost.
Yeah, because you got Joavo and Chris and Jake's and
Yeah.
Ada as well.
And Jake and Sherry have a good story. They have a good storyline, but the gameplay for me doesn't. I just don't like it.
Because you got the Usanok is kind of cool, though.
I don't like being shot at.
But the Usanok chasing you is kind of cool.
Yeah, the Usanok's very reminiscent of Nemesis, and it's cool that you have to run from it. And Jake and Sherry is definitely it would be way closer to Leon and Helena's than Chris's and Piers. Fuck Piers.
I hate Piers.
Piers is stupid.
God. Everyone knows on this channel how I feel about that.
All the hentai drawn about Chris fucking Piers in the ass, dude.
What?
Yeah. That's their like.
Don't even bring light to that. Now
Yeah,
people are gonna send. Now people are gonna send us that shit.
Look at Chris doggy style raw.
Oh Jesus. Nani?
But no, seriously. After Helena and 6 has one of my favorite scenes ever, which is the one where he's holding Ada in his lap and he's shooting at Simmons. The T-Rex is fucking retarded.
Yeah, you know it is.
I'm sorry.
Everyone
it's
knows
bad,
that.
but the
It's
death
bad.
is metal.
Right, but
When he dies and bleeds into the Umbrella logo,
yeah,
that's
cool.
that is literally Swedish death metal.
But
like, that's hardcore.
It's a shame that it's just
Still a better boss
he's
fight
forgettable.
than
And
Irvine.
I don't care about the C virus. Here's the thing: we're already talking about negative shit, so let's get to it. RE6 for me. Everyone knows this. I've done my thoughts video on RE6 if you ever want to hear me talk like in depth about it. But too packed, too bloated. So much going on.
There's so much going on.
And inconsistencies between the scenarios.
Yeah, do you want to know what I wrote down for my negative?
What's that? Everything? No.
Everything other than Leon and Helena. Literally. I wrote down word for word everything gameplay-wise, parenthesis, outside of Leon / Helena, end parenthesis. Literally everything but Leon and Helena in that game, for me, is the worst thing about that game.
But you do like the cinema, like how it's kind of like, I was going to say shot, but how it's darker toned.
Yeah, it's a darker tone.
I like that. I
said gameplay.
Okay,
gameplay specifically.
Okay.
Story-wise, even Chris and Piers' story's good. It's the gameplay part of it that's bad. I just don't like it. It's not my kind of Resident Evil. I'd still rather play that than 0. Because at least I know I can get through it. Right. Without dying.
There's some, and again,
and I don't mean dying as in dying. I mean like dying
I think
as in
for me, see, I played 6. 6 was weird for me because I don't have that connection of co-op between 5 because there was a weird drop off between like not a lot of my friends bought 6. Like I was the one person that actually bought 6, and I did end up playing it with a couple people, but I played more of it by myself. So I think that might have altered my enjoyment, but I remember not enjoying like the Chris scenario as much.
Yeah, why was all of the cool stuff? I'm not complaining because I love Leon, but like all of the cool designs, like Helena's like sister, and like the gas bloated thing that was in the church. Why was all the cool stuff in his campaign? Like nothing that the others, other than Ustanak, nothing that the other ones had.
It's like yeah, like you said, they put all the good ideas. Yeah, they blew their load too soon.
Leon.
Yeah,
and I do like when Leon and Chris meet.
Ada's was cool because there's puzzles.
Yeah,
and it was stealth. I like that.
It was okay. It was like separate ways.
It was okay, but by the time you got to Ada, you're so tired.
Yeah, you're so tired.
And you did have to redo some of the fights. Redoing that shit
was boring.
Pissed me off.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was repetitive.
Yeah.
It was repetitive, and that goes into, again, the negative. It's too bloated.
That's another thing about 4 we didn't talk about, but Separate Ways was really cool.
Oh, no, yeah, Separate Ways is great.
Separate Ways was
really
cool.
It was great. But yeah, 6 was like, again, this is when the dip started in the series.
Yeah, 6 was just...
Can you see the dynamic, guys, between the first half of the trilogy and then this latter half?
As it goes on, I keep saying it. Like I said, there's a pattern. I said that. The pattern is, it feels like they were trying to do too much and didn't finish it. Or they didn't have enough time. Moving on to 7. I think you put the same thing, right? The return of horror, or
Yeah, step back into survival horror.
Step in the right direction.
Right.
We're not going to go too depth into that right now because
No.
we guys have already heard our opinions on there. But just like
We are going to be revisiting it soon.
Yes, we're going to be revisiting
hints,
7.
Hint. After Dino Crisis 3.
After Dino Crisis 3, we're going to be returning to Resident Evil 7, which kind of...
Because we haven't touched it since it came out.
Yes, which kind of comes back to another podcast idea. Going into the negatives, like, just, like, to get it out of the way.
The setting, the bakers.
Yeah,
that's what I have.
The bakers are trash. And
Yeah.
the molded are cool. I don't mind the molded.
I hate the molded.
But
that's where we can disagree
like,
there.
I don't mind the molded. I think the molded in design is fine. But the bakers ruined the enemy design in that game. Like, because they're also molded, it's...
I didn't care about Evelyn either.
No, I
didn't give a shit. And I also... That DLC offended me because it was so useless.
Yeah.
It literally did absolutely nothing. But not a
the
hero,
DLCs are bad.
the Zoe, all that shit, fuck it all.
Yeah, it's bad.
Fuck it all.
7 was a return to horror, but the bakers, I like the molded design. You know the molded that spawn everywhere with like the venom like teeth?
Yeah.
I like their
and
design.
down in the tunnels and shit.
I like their design. The other enemies in the game, especially the one at the end where you're fighting like a building.
Yeah.
Pass.
Forgettable.
For me, it's
Just
forgettable.
more forgettable,
it's
man.
I hate the Western horror feel of it, like the modern Western horror feel.
Kind of like
where-
the Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, the
kind of
chainsaw,
thing.
like you're popping balloons to find like items and stuff. Like, it's not Resident Evil. Like, it's not. I'm sorry.
Oh, Lucas. You're talking about
Yeah,
Lucas's
like it's
booby
not.
traps,
It's
right.
just not. It's not Resident Evil. Like,
Right.
it's not what I wanted. But the step back into the limited resources and the horror instead of the
item
action,
box.
the item box,
the
like,
RE engine.
you know, that's
that,
the bobbleheads were cool. They
Right.
kept those in Resident Evil 2
because
Remake.
again, some of these elements we did see in 2,
Mm-hmm.
so they pretty much kept the menu, they kept the item box, they kept the.
There were some good things.
There were some good things that came out of it. The gunpowder, I think, as well.
Well, the gunpowder really was from 3.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
the gunpowder started in
But
3.
again, bringing it back though,
Bringing
like
it back to
saying,
7,
"Hey, we're
yeah.
trying to bring these elements in," because again, 6, like we just said, was so far removed, so they had to kind of get it back. But that's the only thing I can really say. I just didn't like the setting, didn't like the bakers.
The bakers completely ruined the game for me.
Yeah, they did, and a lot of people did get into the series for 7. It was It was the gateway drug.
Yes, it was. It was the Markiplier drug.
Yeah, it was the survival horror. If it can get people into it, great. Whatever.
It got the attention of big people like Markiplier.
If you played 6 and it got you in it, great. If you played 5, whatever the case may be, it started that streaming culture. Some people jumped on it, definitely with 7, but it's not a good Resident Evil game.
No, I can just imagine, like, people who started with 0 and then playing Remake after that and just being like, how the fuck did they do so much better? And, like, literally everything gameplay-wise after 0 is just so good.
Yeah, right.
Like, they went back and played the original 2 and were like, oh my god, I don't have to drop my items on the ground?
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, I can just put it in a box.
I don't have a useless boy fucking tomboy haircut. Or not tomboy. Mullet. I don't have a useless mullet handcuff wearing bitch.
All business in the back.
Love mother.
yeah.
69.
7 is, from what you said, about RE5, 7 is just not good.
Remake 2's most recent. So, like, we're kind of zoom past that one, too. Because it's not really... Like, we've already kind of talked about Resident Evil 2 Remake in this. My favorite thing about it was just, like, how nice it is to play.
Remake 2. We're on Remake 2 now.
Yeah, Remake 2. Just to leave 7 behind. Because we don't want to spend too much time on that. But
we don't.
Remake 2 is just, like, how nice it is to play.
It
just feels good.
I put environment with the translation from the original to remake.
Yes,
from the ground up. It's
the most visually stunning Resident Evil.
Best feeling, movement wise.
Best feeling, movement wise, control wise. Everything about it is good.
Keep this for 8.
Yes,
and that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah,
but
it's a whole nother topic.
Just keep it for 8 though.
Yeah, keep it for 8.
You got it down right now.
Don't go back to the PSVR 2.
And please don't do first person. You got
it's
it.
Gonna do it.
I know that's what you think.
It's gonna do it. It's gonna happen, and people don't want to hear that, but it's gonna happen.
Well, I hope Sony gets their fucking nose out of Capcom's business. It doesn't cut them a check and
No,
say, "Hey, you gotta
Sony's
make
cut 'em a
for
check.
the VR 2. You gotta have it."
They should just make Resident Evil 7 Part 2.
Because we know PS5 is gonna have VR.
It's gonna have PSVR too.
I just don't want 8 on it. Oh god. But RE2 really just again, my issue with it is the zapping system again, not consistent.
Mine too.
So we both agree on that.
Yeah, mine is the fact, like I said earlier.
So we're the same on remake.
Yeah,
much.
my favorite, my least favorite thing about it is the same thing I said earlier.
Right.
It feels like everything Resident Evil 2 did bad, it did worse, and everything Resident Evil 2 did good, it did better. Does that make sense?
It does.
Like every single thing that was great about the original game,
Yeah.
they made it even better. Everything that they did bad in the original game, they made it worse. Like now Leon and Claire literally fight the same boss and Annette helps them twice. She literally runs over and she's like, "You gotta stop him," and then you fight him. And then in the B scenario, she runs over and she's like, "You gotta stop my husband." Like she didn't just fucking help Leon do it or Claire do it.
Right.
It boggles my mind. It makes me want to cunt punch somebody.
You
Like
you'd rather have it just one story.
I just want Leon and Claire. I don't want A and B. I just want Leon's story and Claire's story. Like it was so good. Like when Birkin rips Mr. X in half and like
it worked.
Everything was so good, but the part when they're overlapping the story and it's so obvious, it makes me want to just strangle somebody. Like how did you not see this?
Or they saw it and they just didn't care.
Or they were just like, "Oh, it don't matter, 69." You know what I mean? Like I don't like. Maybe that's clause 69 in the book.
Yeah, that's what it is.
In the handbook, it's like, "Oh, don't care." Like I don't understand, but like, why? Like I just don't know. If it wasn't for that, it would be a better remake than remake. But because of that, because it took what was bad and didn't make it better, it just made it worse or the same in terms of what was bad.
Right.
For me, it's the worst thing. It's just the worst thing.
Right.
I'm waiting like a kid in a candy store for them to deliver Remake 2 and fix all the problems I had with the first game because the first game is my favorite game. And then all of a sudden, they made everything that was bad worse, but they made everything that was good better. So it's like a trade-off.
It's not like it was just negativity.
Yeah, like I said, there's two extremes, and they stretched them. But, moving on to the last one on the list, Revelations 1 and 2.
Yes, these we kind of threw in there
together.
Right.
I just want to briefly go over, what my side of things is, and then I'll have you wrap it up. But my favorite thing about Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 are the cinematic experience of the games. Now, the reason why I think it's important to talk about these is because of the spin-off games, they're the best. Like, they're the best series of spin-off games.
Yeah, I would say so.
So, they're also pivotal between 4 and 5 and 5 and 6. They're really important to, like, not so much the second one, but the first one literally tells you where Chris and Jill are between 4 and 5. Like, it tells you what they're doing, right? Which is a cool dynamic to see. But the way the story presents itself is great. And I think that the episodic nature, while I would never want that in my Resident Evil game, like the normal mainline titles, for the spin-off series, if they kept going with Revelations, I would enjoy it if we got a Revelations every couple of years to tie in between stories. Like, I would really like it. And I think that they should really consider doing that. I would almost say that Revelations should come out every 3 major games and then have 3 major sections in it dividing between each game.
Yeah.
Like, it would be really cool to see in between stories and returns of favorite characters like Barry and stuff. What do you have for your favorite thing?
My favorite thing for Revelations is the return of Jill and her story. And I really liked it. And plus, I also like that it wasn't too long.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long of a game.
It feels like the right length.
Yeah.
It feels episodic, which is good.
Well, I mean, that's what I put for like a negative thing, is I didn't like the broken up episodes as much. But I mean, that was like,
for
that was me
1,
kinda, honestly, that was kind of me like grasping for something. I really couldn't.
For me,
it's been a while since I played through it, so I can't I don't know. Maybe if I played through it recently, I could say
I think if
something
you
else.
played through the Revelations one, you would think it was good because you're playing it all at once. But originally, if it was released episodically,
2 was.
2 was.
Not 1.
That's bad. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But having...
honestly, that kind of feeds more into 2, but I also said 2 felt cheap.
It does feel a little cheap. The gameplay's
2 felt
weird.
cheaper than 1 for some reason. Like,
Yeah.
the graphics and stuff looked dull, and that was supposed to be on, like, PS4 and PC. Like, I played it on PC, and I was like, what the fuck?
It felt like they made it for the DS and then didn't release it on the DS.
Right.
And then upscaled it.
Yeah,
And then,
that's what 2 felt
upgraded
like.
it.
Yeah,
it
2
felt
could have
weird.
been a little bit more polished.
Dustin really likes the raid mode in 2.
I like raid
And
mode.
raid mode's really fun.
Yeah, really
it's
fun.
really good.
Yeah.
The multiplayer is really
The
fun.
mini games, they always hit out of the park.
Yeah, the minigames are really good.
Yeah.
I would say my least favorite thing about Revelations 1 and 2, I can't quite put my finger on it. I'm not really sure exactly what it is. But when I play those games, gameplay-wise, not story-wise, just gameplay-wise, when I play Revelations, I always feel like something is missing. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's, pacing or enemy variety. I don't know what it is. But something feels off. And even I've been playing Revelations 1. I've been replaying Revelations 1 recently. And I'm more interested in the cutscenes than I am in the actual gameplay. Boss battles are really fun.
Yeah, I do remember them.
Boss battles are really fun in those 2 games. I really enjoy them. But for some reason, I just don't like...
I don't know.
I just feel like something's missing. And of all the Revelations games, of all the stories and episodes and everything, my favorite by far is Claire and Moira.
Yeah.
I really like Claire's story, when she's running up where you start and you kidnapped and you get more, story behind who she is and what she's doing. I like Claire's section. Barry's section is annoying. Natalia is weird. Alex Wesker's fucking weird. But she's cool. Revelations 1, I don't like any of the times when you play with Chris.
I do like 2 and over 1.
Yeah.
I always like Revelations 2 a little bit. Even though I like Jill the most,
Yeah.
I for some reason like
Yeah.
2 a little bit more than 1. in my
One is
opinion.
good. I don't like Parker.
Yeah.
I like Jill.
Yeah.
And I don't like Jessica.
No.
I like Chris, but I don't like Chris in that game. His segment, and not that it's because of Chris, but his segments are weird. There's a segment where you play as 2 fucking characters. I can't remember their names right now. But the 2 other BSA agents that fight the Invisible Hunters, their segments are more fun than Chris's segments. I hate the Revelations 1 segment where you're laying on the ground and the wolves are circling you. It's stupid. Jill's are cool, though. Jill's segments are really cool. Jill and Parker have good segments.
It's like it has peaks and valleys.
I do like the flashback scene with Parker, though.
Yeah.
With
That's
Parker
a
and
cool
Jessica,
scene.
where you're fighting the hunters
Yeah.
as you're scaling the tower.
Yeah.
That scene's really cool.
I think
The Queen Zenobia is really cool. I like being on the ship. I like the aquatic enemy design, too.
No.
The T-Abyss virus is really cool.
That's what I'm saying. The T-Abyss with all that stuff, I think that's, if I'm going to move on from, the Jill thing that I like, I do like the T-Abyss. I think it's just, there's peaks and valleys with the Revelations games. There's better parts. It's not fully consistent, but I guess that's also why it's a spin-off. Sometimes you're going to get
Barry's
dips in
story makes
quality.
no sense.
Yeah. I now, with 2, for me, I put the return of Claire and Barry were my favorite things.
Yeah.
But they could have been stronger.
Yeah.
They could have been stronger.
I just feel like gameplay-wise, they're missing something. But I still like it a lot.
Yeah.
I still like it a lot.
Yeah. Worth mentioning. We
sure.
wanted to mention it when we're talking about the main titles. But
Yeah, so is there any... that wraps up what we have written down.
Right.
In terms of any other Resident Evil games that aren't talked about, is there anything that really sticks out from another series that you... Or from another game that you really liked?
That isn't talked about?
No, that we haven't talked about so far.
For the games that we have
Yeah.
here.
Because I have some honorable mentions about things I liked.
Sure, I'll have you
and
go
things I
first.
disliked. So we'll start with things I disliked. I hate Survivor. It's stupid. I don't like that you can't save.
Yeah, I don't.
I get it was made as an arcade game. It should have stayed an arcade game. And if it was going to get ported over, they should have implemented some type of save system.
Well, I don't think it was ever intended to be an arcade game.
No, it was. There's no saving. Like, the entire game was built around an arcade system.
Right, but I don't think it was ever meant for machines, though.
It's on machines.
But I feel like it was meant for home consoles.
I don't know. I don't know. So we'd have to look into it more.
We
but
just didn't get the gun.
It was definitely
because of the violence.
Very arcadey. Yeah. Dead aim is weird. I don't like the mechanic of being in third person and then going to first person.
Yeah, dead aim.
I'd rather be first person all or a third person all, but I do like the connection between dead aim and
What about Gaiden?
Revelations. Gaiden's good. I don't mind Gaiden. I really like the Game Boy Color soundtrack.
Yeah.
Gaiden was different. Obviously, it's non-canon, but it was different. But it's not too bad. I like the approach of trying to bring retro, Resident Evil to the home consoles. I think Resident Evil for the Game Boy Color, the one that I have the article about them talking about how there was flesh eating.
Exist.
There was flesh eating rats.
You can't play the ROM.
Yeah. There's flesh eating rats. I think that would have been cool too.
Umbrella Corps sucks dick.
Umbrella Corps is bad. Umbrella Chronicles and Darkside Chronicles, I actually enjoy. Darkside way more. Yeah. But I enjoy the storytelling and the on-rail shooters. It's good. Really fun with a friend.
Right.
I would say most notable dislike for me in the entire series that isn't in the mainline Resident Evils. I would say
Umbrella Corps is like low.
Umbrella Corps is probably the worst.
Like tier list, Umbrella Corps is like half.
Yeah, it's
because Operation Raccoon City is pretty average in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not
terrible.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's
Again, the co-op saved that for me, so that's an honorable mention for me is Operation Raccoon City, for like kind of in the middle. But I'm thinking here. I do like Gaiden, here and there. It depends.
My favorite thing.
Mercenaries 3D.
Mercenaries 3D is shit.
It's not that good.
No, it's not shit because it's bad. It's shit because I just wanted it on console.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want it on 3DS because it's not as intuitive on the 3DS.
Because like when the
3DS is a great console.
When I did play Mercenaries 3D, I was like, I should just be playing RE5 or RE6 Mercs. Like I'd rather play that.
Yeah, because it's on a controller, and I want my Resident Evil games on a gamepad.
Right.
Not on a DS.
No.
I love the DS.
Right. And Revelations worked on it.
It's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same.
But they could put Mercenaries.
Even
3D
Revelations is better on the on the Switch.
But that's what I'm saying. Mercenaries could have been on the Switch for example.
Yeah, they could have put it on the Switch, which maybe they will. Who knows?
I think it came out too soon. It should have came on the 3. It should have just waited. Yeah, but they probably owed them the game, and they were like.
So I guess the last note I have before we sign off for me is one of the coolest things that Resident Evil ever did. That is kind of breaking the fourth wall here because it's in this list, but it's not in this list because we didn't talk about it. But I love going completely against what I just said. I love Resident Evil Deadly Silence. It is such a good game. It is the perfect. I love that.
Yeah.
That's
why I got a DS back in the day.
It is the perfect port of Resident Evil 1.
Yeah.
And the multiplayer game is so good. It's fun.
I remember...
you can play as Edward.
Yeah. February 2006, I got that for the 10th anniversary.
Or not Edward. You can play as Kenneth, Enrico, Jill, Chris, Forrest.
Yeah.
Richard. You have all those characters.
Soundtrack to where it was like a hybrid. Mm-hmm. And the first person...
The first person in an arranged mode
and the puzzle first person
in the Deadly Silence
you used
mode.
the touch bottom thing for the puzzles. They went back to 1 and added stuff, which is kind of cool.
Which is cool. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. I would say that. Yeah, that's definitely an honorable mention for me. That's in high regard.
Yeah, I really liked it, and I thought it was really cool. It wouldn't work on any other system,
right?
But it was really cool. If you guys have never picked up a copy of that, if you have a DS,
it's unique.
Play it. Yeah, it's unique. It's
and of course, it's RE1, so it goes back to everything we talked about with the
RE1
isolation and everything. But it's like
But the multiplayer is really cool, and it's really cool going into first person and having to fight things off with a knife.
Yeah,
like it was really cool.
And you can touch Jill with the stylus.
And you can touch Jill with the stylus on the ass and on the tits.
Yeah, and she reacts.
And she does. Ah!
Yeah, she covers herself up.
Yeah, she covers herself up. And you can touch Chris too.
Ah! Yeah.
And he looks at his ass like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, he's like, what the hell?
Wesker?
Yeah, Wesker, is that you?
Yeah, but that's cool. Like, I think that's... And for those of you who don't know where Resident Evil Deadly Silence gets its name, do you know?
DS.
DS, Deadly Silence.
Yes.
Yeah, for just for the people.
Because when
I'm sure there's someone who's going to hear that and go, "Oh my god!"
Because when you click start, it says Resident Evil DS
Instead of Deadly Silence.
So
DS. It's so good.
Yeah, I got a DS, and I still have my old school 2004 or 2005 Fat DS, and I got that in Mario Kart for my birthday in February 2006.
Yep.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, I gotta get Resident Evil. Gotta get it.
It's so good, and it was such a good experience.
Right, and I remember watching a review on G4 XPlay, and they hated it because they thought it was dated and it died
no,
a long
was
time
awesome.
ago. But then I was like, I love this.
Yeah, G4, thing. Fuck off. That's why they're not around anymore.
No, I like G4.
No,
I like G4.
Some of their opinions were like harsh. Though.
That's true, but I did like G4 a lot.
Yeah. G4
I owe
always,
a lot to them.
The problem with G4 and other platforms like that, they had good episodes too. They were good like XPlay's the same way, and even like IGN now. The problem with game review companies, especially like game like insider stuff, is they always review everything in a position of the modern day. So like if IGN wrote a review on Soul Reaver 2, they're going to review that game with the mindset of 2019. That's just how they are.
Right.
Whereas like a YouTuber, a specialty tuber like us or somebody else who's going to review, they're going to take in aspects of 2019 and they're going to look back at 1996 when Resident Evil came out and look at what was out then.
Right.
Like a retrospect.
Yeah, well, they're not as close-minded. Like sometimes they're biased or
they're more close-minded.
Whatever the fuck it is, you know. But yeah, that era is done. But I mean, yeah, I think I kind of hit everything on the list.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other honorable mentions.
You know, I mean, but you know, this podcast was solely just to say, hey, we're gonna take what we like, take what we don't like, and hopefully, you can start some discussions. What do you guys think? In the comments?
Of every game, or if there's some games you want to talk about and other games you just have no experience with.
Other
literally
topics
everything.
Too,
yeah, leave it all in the
that
comments.
You want us to talk about. Give us a like. Don't forget to drop a like.
Subscribe. Hit the bell.
Yes, hit the bell.
So especially now that we're releasing other smaller videos in between their larger videos. Your notifications, if you want to get our channel content, you have to hit the bell because I watch our stuff on a separate account and sometimes it doesn't even tell me we uploaded something.
Yes, and we're not even talking about just the smaller stuff, just even like a podcast. Sometimes when people are subscribed to so many people and sometimes it's hard to see those videos. So, you know, just to stay in the loop, obviously you have our social media stuff, Twitter, Let's Talk RE on Twitter. You know, you can download the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Libsyn, Facebook.com/Let's Talk Resident Evil.
For sure.
You know, we have everything that, we got everything on there ready to go. And we got more podcasts on the way, more live streams on the way.
For sure.
We're trying, we're going to start it. But there's so much out there. So the fact that anybody would take the time to listen to this thing all the way through, listen to this show or listen to our past stuff or watch the whole 9 years worth of shit that I've done through the Let's Play starting and through what we've all done recently. It's, you know, we thank you guys for that. So all the other stuff that we're putting out, it's just for everybody. But, you know, again, just make sure that you stay in the loop on you know, social media and what we're uploading, so you know what's going on.
Like
the Discord
comment,
as well. I gotta plug the Discord.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter,
just everything. Yeah, so you know what we're doing every step of the way.
Courier pigeon.
Yeah.
Courier crow.
Yeah, courier crow. But yeah, that's everything. I think we got everything plugged.
Moral of the story. There was one quick thing I wanted to say, really quick, about just this in general. When it comes to Resident Evil and all of my favorite things about Resident Evil, I just want to list these off. This is something I wanted to do. So in Resident Evil 1996, my favorite was tone and atmosphere. Resident Evil 2, my favorite was characters. 3 was Nemesis. Code Veronica was soundtrack. Remake was keeping the original intact. 0 is expanding the pre-story, or expanding the story. 4 is the return of Leon and Ada. 5 is Lost in Nightmares. 6 is storyline premise. Leon and Helena specifically. 7 was the return to horror. And Revelations 2 was the cinematic experience. The reason why I wanted to list them off is because something I noticed while we were recording the podcast, and something I noticed prior to the podcast, is of all of my favorite things, other than Lost in Nightmares, which I guess we could rank that up as DLC. So let's say DLC instead of Lost in Nightmares, right? So that means everything that I love about all the other Resident Evil games, Resident Evil 2 Remake does all of them perfectly. There's literally nothing that the other ones do, other than storyline, because of the inconsistencies that I said earlier. Everything I love about each game can be found in Remake 2. And that's why Remake 2 is a blessing. Like, it's such a good game.
Right. We're very grateful for that.
It's very grateful because it's a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's a huge step in the-
RE8
in
needs
the
to
right
be.
direction.
That's why I keep saying that. It's that the future.
RE8 needs to be that.
is in, you know.
The future is now
it's in
thanks to science.
It's in their hands to do it the right way, not do it like 7.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
We'll see.
We shall see.
I mean, who's to speculate?
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But we'll keep the discussion going
yeah.
in other stuff that we're going to be doing, because that's the thing. We're going to be having those discussions about action versus horror, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah, what doesn't work.
But we want to hear from you guys
Character,
too.
everything.
So
yeah, so
let your voices be heard.
Yep. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. This was a meaty one. This was definitely
Yeah.
a meaty podcast.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be really interesting to listen to.
And again, thank you, Space Burrito.
Yeah, Space Burrito. Thank you for being chubby.
Yeah.
And being so full of good ideas.
Absolutely.
Thank you for always heading out. Anybody who submits a podcast idea will get love in the podcast when we do it too. So guys, just, obviously if there's like 700 people that request the same thing, we might not see everyone, but
This was a good idea.
this was a good idea. So we
Right.
picked this one. So Space Burrito, hats off to you. Have yourselves a great one.
Take care, guys.
Take care.
Catch you in the next one.